The funeral hall was quiet, Yoon Seol standing by the memorials of her deceased parents. The air is heavy with grief as she mourns their loss. Her tears flow freely, and in her heart she clings to the only family she has left, her grandfather. For as long as she could remember, her grandfather had been her anchor. He was the one who had shielded her after her parents' tragic passing. From that moment on, Yoon Seol had vowed to do whatever it took to make her grandfather happy. But even the strongest anchors weaken over time. Yoon Seol had recently discovered a heartbreaking truth. Her grandfather was in the late stages of pancreatic cancer. His remaining days were few, and with what little time he had left, he had made a request. He wanted to see her married before he passed away. Yoon Seol's heart churned. Marriage? She was too young, and it felt rushed. Yet, her grandfather's concern for her future left her no choice but to consider it. At college, So-kyun approached Yoon Seol, her carefree and charming friend who always lightened her mood. An idea stuck in her mind as she suddenly dragged him outside the classroom. Once they were outside, she hesitated for a moment before blurting out, "So-kyun, would you marry me?" So-kyun froze, stunned for a moment, then broke into a grin. "Of course, it's sudden, but how could I refuse when you're the one proposing?" he said, then added with a laugh. "But let's marry when we're 30, okay?" Yoon Seol opened her mouth to explain, but his phone rang, interrupting her. One of his friends invited him to meet some pretty girls nearby. So-kyun's grin widened. "Sounds fun. Let's continue this tomorrow, Yoon Seol. I've got to go now." Yoon Seol forced a smile. Okay, go. I was just kidding anyway." So-kyun chuckled, pinching her cheeks. "I knew it, but still my heart was pounding, you know." With that, he waved and walked off, leaving the campus. Yoon Seol watched his retreating figure, her chest tightening. Frustrated, she muttered to herself, "What have I done? What was I expecting from someone who's never serious?" Her thoughts spiraled. Can't he take me seriously just for once? Was my face not serious enough? Lost in her thoughts, she bumped into someone. Startled, she looked up, apologizing hastily. The man with an icy demeanor interrupted her. "Next time, pay attention to where you're walking. Don't daydream." Irritated by his tone, Yoon Seol snapped, "If you saw me daydreaming, you could have avoided me. Instead, you walked right into me. You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Before he could respond, a car sped dangerously close to her. In a swift motion, the man grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety. The momentum brought her crashing into his chest, their faces so close that their lips accidentally brushed. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. Realizing what had just happened, the man quickly released her. Yoon Seol stumbled, her face turning crimson. "Don't get the wrong idea," he said coldly, brushing off his sleeve. "The car was speeding. I only pulled you to keep you safe." Yeah, thanks," she stammered. She straightened herself, avoiding his gaze. "Let's just pretend none of this happened. We're both having a bad day." Without waiting for his reply, she turned to leave. But before she could escape, his amused voice cut through the air. "You're not even going to thank me for saving your life?" His lips curled into a teasing smirk. Then, with a glint of mischief in his eyes, he added, "Or are you planning to leave without compensating me for that kiss just now?" Yoon Seol, still reeling from the close call, retorted, "What kiss? Our lips barely touched." "Don't act like it's such a big deal." Her voice dripped with sarcasm as she added, "What's the matter? Don't tell me you've never been kissed before." The man smirked. "What makes you think that?" "If anything, you're the one who looks like they've never kissed anyone before." Irritated, Yoon Seol shot back, "What's so special about you? I don't even remember kissing you." His smirk deepened. "Really? People don't usually forget their first kiss so easily." Her anger flared at his teasing tone. "First kiss? You're delusional. For your information, you're the 108th person I've kissed, so forgive me if it wasn't memorable." With that, she spun on her heel, her voice sharp as she added, "And don't talk to me if you see me again, you perverted guy." He stood there, watching her storm off with amusement dancing in his eyes. "The 108th, huh?" "Interesting," he muttered, a faint grin lingering as he watched her disappearing figure. Back at campus, Yoon Seol sat in class, distracted. Her friends laughed and chatted around her, discussing upcoming parties and outings, but she could hardly focus. So-kyun, ever the life of the group, bantered with the others, his carefree smile brightening the mood. Suddenly, the professor walked in, silencing the chatter. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his tone serious. "Today we have a special guest lecturer who will be joining us as a lecturer for the next semester." He introduced himself with a calm, steady voice. "Good morning, my name is Kang Jun-young." Yoon Seol froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. She clutched her notebook tightly, her face a mixture of shock and mortification. Her mind screamed, "The annoying person from yesterday!" Her cheeks burned as she ducked lower in her seat. Her panic escalated as his eyes scanned the classroom. She ducked behind her notebook, whispering to herself, "Did I see it wrong? Please, let me be wrong." Suddenly, his voice rang out, sharp and clear, cutting through the chatter. You, the one clutching the book, what's your name? Startled, Yoon Seol froze. I'm Choi Yoon Seol, sir, she stammered, trying to steady her voice. A playful smirk tugged at his lips. Miss Choi, he began smoothly, I never knew that biting a book could help you absorb its content. The class erupted into laughter, and Yoon Seol's face turned crimson. Before she could recover, his smirk deepened. Well then, he said, flipping the page casually, why don't you explain page 108? Her heart skipped a beat at the deliberate pause before his next words. Oh, my mistake, he added, his tone laced with mischief. I meant page 10.8. His eyes sparkled with amusement as he continued. Go ahead, Miss Choi. Please enlighten us. His smirk widened, clearly enjoying her discomfort. As class ends, Sujin casually greeted Professor Kang. Why didn't you tell me you'd be teaching here? She asked, her tone light and playful. Let's have a coffee, she added. Kang Junyoung's expression remained polite but distant as he replied, I have something to take care of after this. Also, it's not appropriate for a professor and student to have coffee together. Oh, Sujin, you know him? One of the classmates asked, surprised. Sujin replied nonchalantly, Yeah, our families know each other. Later, Kyung-eun, Yoon Seol's friend, suggested lunch, craving jimpong, but Yoon Seol declined. I'm just going to head straight home. I'm just tired, she said with a weak smile. Walking through the hallway, she noticed Kang Junyoung ahead of her. Gathering her courage, she called out, Mr. Kang, can we talk for a moment? He stopped and turned, his sharp gaze locking onto hers. I'm sorry for how our first meeting went, she began hesitantly. But can we not bring our issue into class? Me? He asked, his tone unreadable. Don't you remember me? His smirk returned, a hint of amusement in his eyes. I never bring personal issues into my class. I act like a professor who advises his students. His voice dipped slightly, carrying a hint of sarcasm. Don't be arrogant. Her mouth opened in shock, but no words came out. As he turned and walked away, she stood there, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Later that evening, back in her apartment, Yoon Seol's phone buzzed. It was her grandfather calling. She answered quickly. Yoon Seol, how are you? He asked cheerfully. I'm good, Grandpa. How about you? She replied. Haha, I'm doing well. Listen, I'll be in the city this Saturday to meet an old friend's son. You should join us. Well, I don't have any plans, so sure, she said. Great, I'll pick you up then. See you soon. The call ended, leaving her staring at her phone. The next day arrived with a crispness in the air, and Yoon Seol found herself accompanying her grandfather to a luxurious estate. Kang Tae-jin, her grandfather called out with warmth as the host approached. The owner of such a large company shouldn't need to personally greet guests at the front gate, Yoon Seol's grandfather teased lightly. But I had to come out. I wanted to meet this young lady, Kang Tae-jin replied, chuckling. As she bowed politely, her grandfather introduced her to Kang Tae-jin and his wife, Hae-suk. These are the children of my late friend, Kang Dong-woo. They were also close friends with your parents, and the owner of TJ Corp. It's lovely to meet you, Yoon Seol said with a warm smile. You've grown into such a beautiful young lady, Tae-jin said warmly. Ah, come inside, Hae-suk added, motioning them toward the grand entrance. As they walked, Tae-jin said, Your family has contributed so much to mine. Without you, TJ Corp wouldn't be where it is today. Don't say that, her grandfather interjected, waving off the compliment. As they entered the home, Tae-jin sighed, his voice tinged with guilt. Yoon Seol, I regret not reaching out after your parents' passing. I should have. Hae-suk gently cut him off, her tone soft and comforting. Let's not bring up something so heavy now, dear. Tae-jin quickly shifted the mood with a warm smile. Yoon Seol, if you're willing, consider yourself part of our family. I'd be thrilled to finally have a daughter, maybe even a younger sibling, and an older brother for my kids. Hae-suk shook her head with a playful smile. Tae-jin, you're going to embarrass her. You've always wanted a daughter, and now you're jumping at the chance. Tae-jin turned, gesturing with pride. Oh, there he is. Our second son, Jun Seo. Say hello. The young man bowed politely. Nice to meet you. I'm Kang Jun Seo. As they continued chatting, the sound of confident footsteps echoed down the hallway. Everyone turned just as the firstborn son entered the room. The air grew tense for a moment, as Yoon Seol locked eyes with none other than Kang Junyoung, the man who had saved her from that speeding car just days ago. Her eyes widened in shock. Both of them froze, their eyes locking in disbelief at the sheer unexpectedness of the moment. Outside the house, Junyoung broke the silence first. Fate really has a sense of humor, doesn't it? He said, his voice laced with amusement. Yoon Seol took a deep breath, trying to suppress her irritation. Why don't we start over? Thank you for saving my life, she said, her tone polite but guarded. Junyoung's eyes glinted with mischief as he replied, Oh, you said you didn't remember, but now it seems like you do remember that we key. Hey, Yoon Seol interrupted sharply, her face heating up. No need for details. And yes, I remember everything, sir. She added the last word with an awkward smile. He chuckled softly. Apart from class, just call me Junyoung. Yoon Seol straightened her posture and shook her head. How could I? You're older and clearly much more experienced. His smirk widened. Oh, experienced, you say? You mean first kiss experience? But I can't compare to you, you've had it 108 times. Her face burned red as she stammered, glaring at him. He chuckled, unbothered. Isn't that right, Miss Choi? Her frustration boiled over. You're impossible. Because of my grandfather and your parents, I'm trying to be civil, but you. She jabbed her finger toward him. Be careful. Outside we don't know each other. Understand? With a casual shrug, he replied, exactly what I want. No need to pretend to be nice. Leaning slightly closer, he added, it doesn't suit me anyway. As he turned to leave, Yoon Seol stood frozen, her fists clenched as irritation simmered within her. Back at the college, Yoon Seol confided in her friend, revealing that she was looking for a potential partner to marry and had even proposed to Seokhyun. Shocked, her friend exclaimed, how can you just marry anyone like that? She then scolded Yoon Seol, you need someone mature and established, not just anyone. Suddenly, her friend's expression brightened as an idea struck her. I know, my aunt runs a matchmaking business. Let's arrange a blind date for you. Without waiting for a response, she added decisively, I'll set it up for this Saturday. On Saturday, at a hotel, Yoon Seol sat waiting for her matchmaking partner to arrive. When he finally appeared, he introduced himself politely, but soon began rambling endlessly about his own good looks. The following Saturday, she met another man who was overly cautious about diet and wouldn't even let her eat freely. As the weeks went by, Yoon Seol met various men. Some were overly bold, hitting on her directly, while others believed in ghosts and shared unsettling, scary stories. It was becoming clear to her just how difficult it was to find a suitable match. However, one Saturday, she met a man who seemed genuine. As she entertained the thought, she accidentally dropped her teacup. The man quickly offered her his handkerchief, a small gesture that sparked a glimmer of hope within her. Perhaps there was still a chance to find a decent man. At the same hotel, on the other side, Junyoung sat in a chair arguing over the phone with his mother. Why do you make promises without consulting me first? He said, his tone laced with irritation. His mother calmly explained, it wasn't me. My friend wanted to introduce her daughter to you after seeing how well your company is performing. As soon as the call ended, someone called his name. A young woman stood in front of him, smiling brightly. Remembering his mother's words, Junyoung regarded her with a serious expression and asked, you look familiar. Have we met before? The girl smiled brightly and replied, yes, we met last year at Prince Ivan's birthday party. Without waiting for a response, she began rambling about how she could help him expand his business by leveraging her connection with the prince. Junyoung listened, growing visibly annoyed with her relentless chatter. Finally, he stood up and said politely, it was nice meeting you, but I have some work to attend to. I should get going. The girl quickly suggested that she had arrived at an inconvenient time and offered to leave first. As she walked toward the exit, Junyoung let out a sigh and sat back in his chair, relieved to finally have some peace. On the other side of the hotel, Yoon Seol's meeting seemed to be going well as they engaged in conversation. The man started, politely, asking about her family. However, his tone shifted when he revealed, I spent 30 million just to meet someone on my level. Yoon Seol was taken aback, her shock evident on her face. Noticing her reaction, the man suddenly grabbed her hand and said, don't lie to me. I know people like you. Low class, desperate. Follow me to the room, or I'll report you. Her anger flared, and she retorted, report me to the police. I'm not afraid. Just then, a familiar voice echoed through the air. Junyoung, who was passing by, stopped in his tracks. The man continued, ignoring her defiance. If you want money, I can help you get it quickly. Yoon Seol clenched her teeth, trying to control her temper. Before the man could say more, his hand was firmly grabbed by someone else. Startled, Yoon Seol looked up, only to see Junyoung standing there, glaring at the man with an icy expression. His grip tightened, causing the man to wince and stumble backward in pain. Without a word, Junyoung grabbed Yoon Seol's hand and swiftly led her out of the scene. Struggling to keep up with his pace, Yoon Seol stumbled behind him. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there, she said breathlessly. She glanced down at her hand and added, you can let go now, Junyoung. He released her hand and asked, so, you were here for a blind date? Irritated, she replied, whatever it is, it's none of your business. Junyoung turned to her and, with a smirk, remarked, judging by how you're dressed, it must have been a date. Unless what that guy said was true? Her face flushed, and she quickly denied it. She sat down on a nearby chair with a sigh. Taking a deep breath, she explained, my grandfather is ill. This was his last wish to see me married. My friend's aunt runs a matchmaking agency, so I decided to try this. Junyoung's expression grew serious as he asked, I thought marriage and love were every woman's dream. Is it really okay to go on blind dates like this? Sighing again, she replied, It's not easy, but I don't need love. For my grandfather's happiness, I just want the title of wife. Junyoung stared at her intently as though deep in thought. She added softly, I thought the man earlier was a good person. I thought I could finally make my grandfather's wish come true. Junyoung pulled up a chair beside her, sitting down without a word. He appeared to be calculating something in his mind before he finally glanced at her and said, Choi Yoon Seol, just marry me. Yoon Seol froze for a moment, completely taken aback. A second later, she laughed nervously. You must be joking. His expression remained serious as he replied, Didn't you say you wouldn't refuse if someone asked you to marry them? Her laughter faded. Yes, but why does it have to be you? Junyoung leaned forward slightly and said calmly, Because it's beneficial for both of us. We meet each other's criteria, and our families know each other. Your grandfather will be happy if you marry me. Suspicious, she asked, And what do you get out of this? I need the status of a husband just like you need the title of wife, he replied. Realization dawned on her, and her eyes widened. Wait, are you also here for… Yes, he interrupted. I don't want to waste my time on blind dates. If I marry someone else, I'd have to deal with their feelings, but you only care about the title. It's convenient for both of us. She looked at him thoughtfully and mumbled, I can't imagine us getting married. Then, after a pause, she said, Can I have some time to think? With a confident smile, Junyoung replied, Fine. I'll give you 3 days. On the third day at 5 in the afternoon, meet me at the parking lot where we first met. If you don't show up, that means you are rejecting my offer. 3 days later, at the parking lot, Junyoung stood waiting as promised. He glanced at his watch. It was 4:50 in the afternoon. His eyes scanned the quiet, empty path ahead. Minutes ticked by, and he checked the time again. Now it was 5:10. Disappointed, he unlocked his car door, thinking to himself, What was I even expecting by coming here? Just as he was about to get into the car, someone called out his name. He turned to see Yoon Seol running toward him, slightly out of breath. Sorry, I'm so sorry I'm late, she said, panting. My class ended later than expected. Junyoung's expression remained serious as he replied, You're 10 minutes late. Still trying to catch her breath, she responded, I'm here to accept your offer, but I have one condition. She straightened herself and looked at him firmly. I want this marriage to stay a secret, at least until I graduate. You're quite popular on campus, and if this gets out, it could be a disaster for me. Junyoung's lips curled into a faint smile as he nodded. Very well. He extended his hand for a handshake and said, In that case, nice working with you, Miss Choi. But he suddenly pulled her forward, and she stumbled into his arms. He held her steady, his grip firm. Startled, she placed her hands on his chest, pushing against him. What are you doing? Just hugging me like that, she exclaimed. With a smirk, he leaned in slightly and said, Well, aren't we a couple now? We should start looking like one. At the Kang mansion during dinner, the atmosphere grew tense as everyone turned their attention to Junyoung, who had just announced he had some news to share. With a steady expression, he stated, I'm going to marry Choi Yoon Seol. His father's face lit up with happiness. Mr. Choi's granddaughter? That's wonderful news, he exclaimed. In contrast, Mrs. Kang's expression clouded with concern. His father nodded approvingly. I had a feeling about this when they visited us, but I wasn't sure. Junyoung responded calmly. We've been dating for quite some time, but I didn't know our parents were acquainted. Mrs. Kang interrupted, her voice firm yet restrained. How long have you two been in a relationship? You were only teaching at her campus last week. Isn't this marriage decision a bit rushed? Junyoung met her gaze evenly. We've been dating long before I started teaching at her campus. I simply didn't tell you, he replied smoothly. Then, with a faint smile, he added, And that's why I dislike it when you push me into blind dates with your friends' daughters. Don't worry, Mother. I'm marrying Yoon Seol because I love her. Mrs. Kang's eyes widened slightly, a wave of panic washing over her as she thought, Does he even know what love really is? Irritated, she clenched the fork in her hand tightly, though her expression remained composed. With a forced smile, she said, Junyoung, why don't you bring her here? I'd like to talk to her myself. On the phone, Yoon Seol was stunned by the news. Worried, she asked, What if she gets suspicious? Junyoung's tone remained calm as he replied, Just stick to the plan. Answer everything as we discussed. I'll wait for you at the usual spot. Don't be late. As the call ended, Yoon Seol stared at her phone, anxiety swirling in her chest. How am I supposed to stay calm? She thought. The next day at the Kang house, Mrs. Kang greeted her with a disappointed tone. How could Junyoung leave you alone like this? Awkwardly, Yoon Seol responded, He had an urgent matter to attend to, so I came alone. Mrs. Kang studied her for a moment, then said, "He's already told us about the marriage, but you're still in college. Isn't this a bit rushed?" Yoon Seol straightened her posture and replied firmly, "We've decided to keep it a secret until I graduate." Suspicious, Mrs. Kang pressed further, her tone slightly sharp. "How long have you two been dating? And why didn't you inform us earlier?" Sensing the tension, Yoon Seol tried to ease her concern. "We're really serious about this," she said, her voice steady. Mrs. Kang seemed to calm slightly, her expression softening. "It's not that I dislike you," she said thoughtfully. I just have a few questions." She looked directly at Yoon Seol, her gaze serious. "Do you really love my son?" Trying her best to appear sincere, Yoon Seol replied, "Yes, I love him with all my heart." Mrs. Kang narrowed her eyes and asked again, "Does Junyoung love you?" Yoon Seol froze, her mind racing for an answer. Before she could respond, a familiar voice interrupted. "Mom, shouldn't you be asking me that?" Startled, Yoon Seol turned as Junyoung entered the room, wrapping his arm around her shoulders and pulling her close. Trapping her in his embrace, he addressed Mrs. Kang. "I told you, we love each other. What more should I do to convince you?" He looked down at Yoon Seol, a playful smile tugging at his lips. "Mom isn't asking you anything strange, is she, honey?" Awkwardly, Yoon Seol shook her head and replied, "No, she's just worried about you." Mrs. Kang observed the exchange quietly, her worry deepening. As they left the house, Yoon Seol complained, "Did you really need to act like that?" she said, her tone frustrated. Junyoung replied casually, "How else would Mom believe us?" "You didn't need to hug me," she retorted. He smirked slightly. "You should have seen your face when she asked you those questions. You looked so awkward, especially when I hugged you." She huffed. "How could I not be awkward? We barely know each other, and you didn't even warn me beforehand." As they reached her home, she muttered a polite thanks and tried to get out of the car. But before she could, Junyoung caught her hand and pulled it to his lips, pressing a kiss to it. "Seems like we need to practice," he said with a teasing smile. Her eyes widened, and her face turned crimson. "Practice?" she murmured, flustered. "Yes, practice," he replied. "We need to look like a real couple every chance we get." She yanked her hand away and shot back. "No, we don't need that. I can manage just fine," he teased. "See, you're already confused, just like now." Leaning closer, he hovered over her, his gaze playful, especially when. Her face grew even redder as the heat rose to her cheeks. Panicked, she pushed him back. "I said I don't need it," she exclaimed, before hurriedly getting out of the car. As she was leaving, her phone rang. Seeing it was her grandfather, she answered quickly. On the other end, her grandfather's voice was warm and amused. "You should have told me earlier, and I would have agreed to your marriage then and there." Hearing his happiness, a smile tugged at her lips, though a pang of nervousness hit her. It's too late to back out now, she thought. After the call ended, she turned back toward the car. Leaning down through the window, she said, "Well, let's practice then." Inside the car, as she leaned closer to him, she asked hesitantly, "Do we really need to practice kissing?" He glanced at her, his eyes glinting with mischief. "What do you think?" Without waiting for an answer, he grabbed her by the neck and gently cupped her face. The next second, his lips captured hers. She froze, her eyes wide with shock. As the moment stretched, their kiss deepened, drawing her further into it. After what felt like an eternity, Junyoung pulled back with a small smile. "That was a wedding kiss," he said casually, brushing his thumb against her lips. "We're getting married soon, so it's only right to practice for it, don't you think?" Still flustered, she nodded wordlessly and quickly left. Inside the car, Junyoung leaned back, rubbing the back of his neck. His cheeks flushed slightly as he replayed what had just happened. The next day at college, as Yoon Seol glanced at her friends, she recalled her conversation with Junyoung. "We're keeping it a secret, but can I tell one of my friends? I need someone to be there for me," she had asked, and he had agreed. Looking at her friends now, she hesitated, unsure who to confide in. Later, as she walked with Young-eun, she gathered her courage and said, "I need to talk to you about something." Young-eun grinned teasingly. "What is it? Are you getting married or something?" Awkwardly, Yoon Seol replied, "Actually, yeah." Young-eun froze, her eyes wide in shock. "What? Who?" Not wanting anyone else to overhear, Yoon Seol led her to a quiet spot. Once they were alone, she took a deep breath and said, "I'm going to marry Mr. Kang." Young-eun pointed at her accusingly. "I knew it. I knew something was going on between you two." "Shh. Keep it down," Yoon Seol whispered, trying to calm her. "Only you know about this, so please keep it a secret." Her friend nodded and hugged her tightly. "Congratulations, you finally found a way." But after a moment, Young-eun's smile faded into concern. "But why is he proposing marriage? What's his reason?" Yoon Seol decided to be honest. "He's the same as me. He needs the status and doesn't want to waste time." Young-eun thought for a moment before asking, "Wait, Could it be that he's the one who saved you from all those blind dates? Before Yoon Seol could answer, Gyeong-eun grinned mischievously. He's like your white knight, isn't he? Riding in on a white horse to save the day. As Gyeong-eun's imagination ran wild, Yoon Seol rolled her eyes, but before she could respond, Seokhyun appeared behind them. What are you two whispering about? He asked cheerfully, leading them toward the campus cafe. Let's grab some coffee. In a coffee shop, Junyoung sat quietly, sipping his coffee. As he glanced outside, his eyes caught a group of 3 people approaching the cafe, laughing together. His gaze lingered on the one person among them he was about to marry, Yoon Seol. Her bright smile lit up her face, and for a moment he couldn't tear his eyes away. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. Junyoung! He turned to see Sujin standing nearby. Hello, Sujin, he replied calmly. Sujin took a seat beside him with a cheerful smile. If I'd known you were coming here, I would have joined you earlier, she said casually. As they chatted, the group entered the cafe. Spotting Sujin, Seokhyun waved enthusiastically. Sujin! Oh, and Mr. Kang is here too, he said, his voice full of surprise. Seokhyun turned to Junyoung with excitement. We're going out to eat. Would you and Sujin like to join us? Junyoung glanced at Yoon Seol, who was subtly signaling him to decline the invitation. A smirk tugged at his lips as he ignored her silent plea. Turning back to Seokhyun, he replied, Okay, I'll join. Great. Let's go now, Seokhyun said, his excitement evident. As they sat in the restaurant, Yoon Seol couldn't shake the discomfort of Junyoung's presence. The atmosphere felt tense, and she couldn't relax. Seokhyun, as usual, offered her a half-cooked egg, a gesture he always made when they ate together. You like this, right? He said, placing it on her plate. Junyoung noticed the gesture, his gaze lingering on them. Noticing his stare, Seokhyun explained with a cheerful smile. Yoon Seol is from Jeojae Island. She loves eggs on top. It's a thing there. Junyoung smiled lightly. Oh, I didn't know that, he said, turning to Yoon Seol. When did you move to Seoul, then? Before Yoon Seol could answer, Seokhyun chimed in again. She moved here when college started. Before that, she was living in Jeojae with her grandfather. Yoon Seol felt awkward and thought, why can't he just shut his mouth? Her thoughts were interrupted when Seokhyun took food from her bowl with his chopsticks. Frustrated, she snapped, Hey, don't use your chopsticks in my food. Here, take all of it now. Sujin, observing their exchange, laughed. Oh, you two have such a cute bond. Seokhyun grinned, putting his arm around Yoon Seol's shoulders. Yeah, we're really close friends. Junyoung remained silent, his expression unreadable as he watched the interaction. Yoon Seol, however, felt something wasn't right. Gyeong-eun sighed quietly, thinking about how strange the situation felt. After finishing their meal, Seokhyun and Sujin excused themselves, waving goodbye as they left for their club activities. The remaining 3 waved back, and Gyeong-eun, sensing the tension, spoke up. I think it's better if I head out too. Yoon Seol wanted to leave with her, but before she could, Junyoung grabbed her bag from behind, stopping her. Noticing this, she simply said, Okay, you go first. Once the others were gone, Junyoung looked at her and said bluntly, You should have told me earlier that you have a boyfriend. It's uncomfortable for me. Irritated, Yoon Seol snapped, He's not my boyfriend. She glared at him and added, And why did you even agree to come? Junyoung replied calmly. We agreed to keep our relationship secret on campus. But that doesn't mean we don't know each other. I was just being natural in front of my students. Looking at him, Yoon Seol thought, I know it's not a real marriage, but how can he stay so calm? As he started to leave, he commanded, Come with me to the car. Feeling a pang of sadness, she thought, What do I even expect from someone like Mr. Kang? Suddenly, he extended his hand toward her. Shocked, she asked, What? He replied smoothly, We should practice whenever we have the opportunity, right? She hesitated, staring at him for a moment. Finally, she placed her hand in his. As they walked together, hand in hand, she thought, After all, this relationship is supposed to be without feelings, right? Determined, she resolved, If he can be cold, then so can I. When they reached the car, Junyoung opened the door and commented, I noticed you're still uncomfortable holding hands. Then, with a slight smirk, he added, You should be skilled at this by now, considering you've kissed 108 times. Yoon Seol glared at him, unsure whether to be angry or just let it slide. Deciding there was no harm in following along, she replied simply, Sorry. Trying to improve, she grabbed his hand again and asked, Like this? Or maybe like this? Experimenting with different ways to hold hands, she added, Which one looks more romantic? Junyoung intertwined his fingers with hers, holding her hand firmly. Like this, he said with a steady gaze. Yoon Seol looked at him, feeling the warmth of his hand. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond, her heart fluttering despite herself. As Yoon Seol chatted with Gyeong-eun, her friend expressed concern about the nature of her marriage. It's legally binding, but it's still not real. How long do you two plan to keep pretending? Kyung-eun asked seriously. Yoon Seol thought to herself, she's right. I need to come up with a plan. She pondered, Junyoung is a successful businessman. It's unlikely he hasn't thought all of this through. But what about me? Am I just going to follow his steps without considering my own? The next day, inside Junyoung's car, she handed him a paper. What's this? He asked, his brow furrowing. It's a letter of agreement, she replied confidently. You take one copy. It's a marriage agreement to make sure neither of us is at a disadvantage. Junyoung examined the paper carefully. That's correct, he murmured, reading through the points. The first point, maintaining confidentiality about the marriage, makes sense, but marital status would be a better term. It's clearer that way. He glanced at her. I don't have a problem with the first point, but if you're telling one of your friends, I'll tell one of mine. Moving on, he read the second point. Behaving appropriately. I'm okay with this one too. Then he got to the third point. Personal lives are separate. He read aloud. Before he could comment, she interrupted. Yes, we're not actually married, so we're free to do as we please. He smirked, raising an eyebrow. So you can go out with your boyfriend? Her glare sharpened. It's not like that. His eyes twinkled mischievously as he continued reading. I disagree with the fourth point, he said suddenly. How will our families believe us if we're not affectionate in front of them? She explained firmly, it doesn't have to be all the time, and you need to inform me beforehand. He shook his head. That's not practical. We'll need to improvise. But we're not going to meet often, she countered. We can plan ahead. He leaned back casually, dropping a bombshell. Oh, I forgot to mention, after we're married, my mother wants us to stay at the family house until you graduate. It's one of her conditions. Her eyes narrowed. And you're telling me this now? Ignoring her irritation, he continued. That's why points 4 and 5 should be removed. As for point 6, he paused, glancing at her. If your grandfather passes away, there's no longer any benefit for you, so I understand. Her frustration boiled over. Why does point 5 have to be removed? I think it's unnecessary, he replied simply, leaning closer. His smirk deepened as he asked, What, do you think I'd do something to you? Or, he paused, his gaze piercing. Are you afraid of being swayed? Her cheeks flushed with anger as she glared at him. Fine, she gritted out, crossing out point 4. But point 5 stays. I'll modify point 4 instead. She handed him the revised agreement. He read it aloud. Not sleeping in the same bed? Yes, she replied firmly. This marriage is business, not emotional, right? Without further argument, he grabbed the paper and signed it. She watched him seriously before saying, Once you're done, close your eyes. He frowned slightly, confused. Why? Before he could process her words, he noticed her leaning toward him, her eyes closed. He froze, his mind racing. She opened her eyes slightly, realizing his hesitation. Flustered, she grabbed his cheeks. Sorry, I forgot to take off my hat. I was just practicing the wedding. Before she could finish, he reached out, removed her hat, and tossed it aside. In one swift motion, he leaned in, cupping her face. A wedding kiss, he murmured, his voice low, is initiated by the groom. Her heartbeat quickened as he drew closer. His gaze locked onto hers. Her breath hitched as he pressed his lips to hers, the kiss deepening as they both became lost in the moment, realizing its significance. As the days passed and the wedding day drew closer, Yoon Seol's phone buzzed constantly with updates, bookings for venues, arrangements for the ceremony, and countless details. She visited each place with Junyoung's mother, whether it was shopping for their bedroom, tasting wedding cakes, or trying on wedding dresses. One afternoon, as she slipped into her wedding dress and stood before the mirror, a wave of realization hit her. This marriage, though a contract for mutual benefit, was still very real. She stared at her reflection, her emotions swirling. The ceremony was set to take place at their family home on Jeojae Island. Walking through the garden, she noticed the flurry of preparations, the decorations, the flowers, the tables being set. But she couldn't understand why she didn't feel happy. Inside the house, her aunt approached her with a concerned expression. Where's Junyoung? I haven't seen him yet, her aunt said, sighing. He should be here by now. Hearing those words, a pang of unease struck Yoon Seol's heart. An emptiness she couldn't quite define began to settle over her. Suddenly, someone called her name. She turned toward the door, and there he was, her husband-to-be, standing with his luggage, his face calm but welcoming. Relief washed over her as she saw him, her heart unexpectedly lifting. Noticing her expression, Junyoung walked over, gently taking the box she was holding. Sorry, he said. I came without letting you know. Before they could continue, her aunt appeared, and Yoon Seol quickly introduced her to Junyoung. As her aunt and Junyoung chatted about the upcoming ceremony, Yoon Seol's gaze lingered on him. Without realizing it, a smile began to form on her face. She felt a genuine sense of calm and happiness. At night, at the Choi house, everyone gathered around the dinner table casually chatting. Yoon Seol's aunt scolded her gently. "You need to eat more, or you'll faint on your wedding day," Yoon Seol protested. "I can't eat too much, aunt, or my dress won't fit." Junyoung, sitting nearby, interjected with a calm assurance. "Don't worry, aunt. After we're married, I'll make sure she eats plenty." Yoon Seol nodded. "See? Now you can relax." Her aunt smiled warmly, commenting, "It's no surprise that Yoon Seol said she fell in love at first sight." Hearing this, Junyoung raised an eyebrow and turned to her. "Oh, really? She never told me that." Her grandfather chimed in with a chuckle. "That's just how she is. She doesn't always say what she feels, but she will love you wholeheartedly." Later, as Yoon Seol prepared a room for Junyoung, he entered with his luggage. Glancing around, he asked, "Is this your room?" "Yeah," she replied. "I'll sleep in my aunt's room tonight. If this feels uncomfortable, then I'm sorry," she added hesitantly. "It's fine," he replied simply. She asked softly, "Why didn't you tell me earlier you were coming? I would have prepared a better room for you." He looked at her for a moment, then raised his hand and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Because my future wife didn't bother contacting me the day before our wedding. What else could I do but come find her myself?" Caught off guard, she looked at him, and he smiled faintly. "Thank you for coming," she said sincerely. Junyoung's smile deepened as he leaned closer, pressing a light kiss to her forehead. Pulling away, he said softly, "Good night, my bride," her heart unexpectedly fluttering. On the wedding day, everything was set for the ceremony to begin. As Junyoung got ready, his friend remarked, "I can't believe you're getting married. A few days ago, you were going on blind dates arranged by your mom. Who's the bride, anyway?" With a smirk, Junyoung replied, "Definitely not someone I met on a blind date." His friend's tone turned serious. "Then who?" Ignoring the question, Junyoung knocked on the door of the room where Yoon Seol was getting ready. Her friend opened the door and said, "She's not ready yet." But Junyoung persisted. "I'll only be a moment," he assured her, stepping inside. He called out, "Yoon Seol," but as he looked up, he froze, his eyes widening. Standing there was Yoon Seol, dressed as a stunning bride in her wedding gown. Noticing his stare, she asked, "Yes." Realizing he had been standing silently for too long, Junyoung cleared his throat and gestured to his friend. "This is my business partner and groomsman. I thought I'd introduce him." She bowed politely to the man, and then introduced her friend to Junyoung's friend. After exchanging pleasantries, Junyoung reminded his friend, "Since this is a secret marriage, don't let anyone at the office find out." His friend nodded. "Got it. I'll head out first to practice." Yoon Seol's friend added, "Me too. I'll leave you two for now." Before leaving, they both advised, "Just relax, okay?" After the door closed, Yoon Seol looked at Junyoung nervously. "Do we really look that tense?" Junyoung replied confidently, "I'm not, are you?" "Of course I am," she exclaimed. "If our act gets exposed, my grandfather will be devastated." Placing a hand on her chest, she added, "So this is what it feels like. No wonder people sometimes run away on their wedding day." Junyoung stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "So, as they suggested, should we practice kissing to relax?" He leaned in, his face drawing closer to hers, their lips just inches apart. "But if we do, you'll have to redo your makeup," he teased with a smirk. Flustered, she pushed him away. "Why are you always thinking about kissing? You're such a pervert." Junyoung chuckled, stepping back with an amused smile. "See? Now you're not nervous anymore, are you?" She stood there, bewildered, watching him leave. What just happened? She thought, her heart racing. Under the soft shadow at the wedding venue, Junyoung stood waiting for his bride. His gaze fixed on the path ahead, and soon she appeared, Yoon Seol, holding her grandfather's hand, walking slowly and shyly toward him. As their eyes met, her heartbeat quickened, and she instinctively looked down, unable to hold his gaze. Junyoung, however, remained composed, his eyes never leaving her as she approached. When they finally reached him, Junyoung, unable to wait any longer, extended his hand toward her. Her grandfather glanced at his outstretched hand, then gently placed Yoon Seol's hand into Junyoung's, sealing the moment with a silent gesture of trust. The ceremony continued, and as they exchanged rings, their families couldn't contain their happiness, smiles lighting up their faces. Suddenly, the groomsman announced, "Now it's time for the kiss to seal the wedding vows," making Yoon Seol tense visibly. Junyoung whispered softly, "Now's the time to show the results of our practice. Relax. You look stiff." As he reached up to remove her veil, she whispered back nervously, "But we didn't practice in front of this many people." He chuckled lightly, his smile reassuring. "Just close your eyes," he whispered. She glanced at him with wide eyes before slowly closing them, trusting his words. Junyoung leaned in, his face mere inches from hers, and in the next moment, their lips met, sealing their wedding with a kiss. The crowd erupted in applause, and with that kiss, they were officially declared Mr. and Mrs. Kang. After their parents left, Yoon Seol and Junyoung bid them farewell, thanking them for everything. Once alone, an awkward silence filled the room. Breaking it, Junyoung asked, "Should you go take a bath first, or should I?" "Oh, you go first. I'll tidy up my things," Yoon Seol replied. "All right." Junyoung nodded, heading toward the bathroom. Left alone, she stood by the bed, lost in thought. Starting tonight, this room was theirs. The large bed was just enough for two, their clothes neatly arranged side by side, and all their shared items made the marriage feel undeniably real, especially with Junyoung's presence. Junyoung soon returned, dressed in his nightwear. "I'm done. You can take a bath now," he said. "Did you finish tidying up?" "Yeah, most of it was done by your mother already," she answered while opening a gift box from her friend, Young-un. Noticing Junyoung's pajamas, she commented, "Oh, you're wearing the pajamas Aunt gifted." She insisted on matching sets. Suddenly, her eyes widened in shock as she opened the box further. Hurriedly, she slammed it shut. "What's that?" Junyoung asked curiously. "Oh, nothing. Just a gift from Young-un," she replied awkwardly. "Is it for both of us?" "Let me see," he said, stepping closer. "You don't have to." Before she could finish, their tug-of-war over the box caused it to fly open, spilling its contents, a very revealing, sexy nightgown. "Hey, don't look, I didn't ask for it," she yelped, frantically picking it up. "I didn't say anything," Junyoung replied, smirking. "You seem nervous." "What exactly are you thinking, Yoon Seol?" She spun around, eyes wide. "Who's nervous?" she barked. "It's just my first time sharing a room with a man, so I'm being cautious." "You're the one who's nervous, afraid I'll do something, right?" Junyoung stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We're husband and wife. We can do it any time." He brushed his thumb against her lips. "How about it?" Her hands instinctively pressed against his chest. "How about?" "What?" she stammered, face burning. Without another word, he leaned in, his lips grazing hers before sealing them in a deep kiss. Her eyes widened, but soon fluttered shut as she clutched his shirt, caught in the moment. He opened his eyes mid-kiss, smirking when he noticed her reaction. Pulling back, he whispered, "Wait, everyone's still up, so we better not go beyond this." Her face turned crimson. "Who said anything about going beyond? Besides, it's in the contract. We're not sleeping in the same bed." He chuckled. "Well, it seems like we'll have to be patient until our honeymoon." "Does this man ever listen?" Yoon Seol thought, exasperated. As night deepened in the Kang household, Yoon Seol sat on the bed, sneaking glances at Junyoung, who sat on the sofa, busy with his tablet. "Calm down, Yoon Seol. Newlyweds' first nights are special, but think of him as a roommate. He won't do anything," she reassured herself. "If you want to turn off the light, it's okay," Junyoung said casually. Glancing over, he noticed her already asleep, sitting upright on the bed. He stared for a moment before quietly raising the covers and wrapping his arms around her, laying her down comfortably. His gaze lingered on her serene face, his eyes drifting to her ample bosom, and then to her slightly parted lips. He couldn't seem to look away, but eventually tucked the blanket around her securely and brushed her hair behind her ear. She stirred slightly, murmuring in her sleep, before turning over and resting soundly. Morning came swiftly. The alarm rang loudly, jolting Yoon Seol awake. Sitting straight, she thought, "Since when did I fall asleep?" Looking toward the sofa, she saw it empty. "Don't tell me." She frantically checked the other side of the bed, but found it empty as well. "Where's he?" Downstairs, she greeted her in-laws warmly. "Good morning, father." "Good morning, mother. Did you sleep well?" "Good morning, dear. Yes, we did." "How about you?" Mr. Kang asked kindly. Before she could answer, Mrs. Kang interjected, "Where's Junyoung?" "I'm here," came a voice from behind. Turning around, they saw Junyoung, looking like he had just returned from a run. "Oh, Junyoung," Mrs. Kang scolded. "Exercising on a day like this? You should be with your wife on her first day here." "Sorry, Mom," he said sincerely. "Go take a shower and come back down," she urged, pushing him gently toward the stairs. As he walked past, he glanced back and saw Yoon Seol chatting comfortably with his family. She also looked back, but only to see him leaving. In kitchen, Mrs. Kang mentioned, "Since you have classes to attend, you don't need to help with cooking, dear." "Oh, but I can help," Yoon Seol offered, feeling responsible. After finishing breakfast, Junyoung stood up. "Thank you for the meal. I'm off to work now." He turned to Yoon Seol, gently placing his hand on her waist. He whispered close to her ear, "You finish your breakfast, dear. I'll be going now." His family watched the affectionate display with warm smiles. Feeling flustered but playing along, Yoon Seol lightly wrapped her arms around him. "I'm done, so I'll walk you to the front." Once outside, Junyoung smirked. "Your acting's getting better, Yoon Seol. It almost looks natural." He paused, tilting his head. "Or, are you starting to enjoy your new status?" Feeling self-conscious, she cautiously asked. "Not really, but I have to ask. Did you really sleep on the sofa last night?" He put a hand on his shoulder, feigning a pained expression. Yes. Now my whole body's sore. Do you think your husband is as filthy as a germ that you won't even sleep with me? That was part of the agreement, she barked. He glanced back, watching her reddening cheeks with amusement. His smirk deepened, thoroughly enjoying the anger in her expression. Later, as Yoon Seol sat in the bus, Junyoung's words replayed in her mind. What does he mean by that? She wondered. Does he want me to feel uncomfortable, so I'll let him sleep on the same bed? She sighed. It's only the first day, and things are already this complicated. I didn't think becoming Kang Junyoung's wife would be harder than I expected. He's so unpredictable. How should I behave around him? Can't he just act in a way that makes this marriage easier? Her gaze drifted to the wedding ring on her finger, and a realization struck her. She shouldn't wear her wedding ring at school. Stopping by a nearby shop, she bought a few fashion rings to wear instead. Now wearing multiple rings on her fingers, she headed to class. In the classroom, Seokhyun asked Young-eun, "You really haven't seen Yoon Seol?" Frustrated, she snapped. "How many times are you going to ask me that?" "No, I haven't." Just then, Yoon Seol rushed in, breathing heavily. Seokhyun immediately jumped from his seat. "Hey, Yoon Seol, sit here," he called out, waving. As she settled in, he added, "I saved the seat for you." "Oh, thanks," she replied. "Where were you? It's so unlike you to be late." "You look exhausted," Seokhyun observed. "I'm fine," she said hesitantly. I moved houses." "Oh, where to?" he asked curiously. "It's a bit far, about 40 minutes away," she explained. "Why? Your old place was close to campus," he pressed further. Before she could answer, Kyung-eun chimed in. "Her grandfather was really worried about her, so she's staying with relatives now." "Right, that's correct," Yoon Seol agreed with an awkward smile. Noticing the rings on her fingers, Seokhyun grabbed her hand. "Since when did you start wearing rings?" he asked, curious. Before she could answer, he concluded with a grin. "Oh, you're following the latest trend, huh?" As they bickered playfully, Junyoung entered the class, his sharp eyes noticing the scene before him. Late that night, Junyoung returned home, unbuttoning his shirt as he entered the living room. "Do you always come home this late?" Yoon Seol's voice startled him. "I thought you'd be asleep by now," he replied. "Not yet. I still have some assignments to finish," she explained. "Why don't you study in the study room, or were you waiting for me?" he teased. "Don't flatter yourself. I told you I was studying," she retorted. "Do you always study this late?" he asked. "Not always," she admitted. "Tomorrow, don't wait for me. Just go to sleep," he said firmly. "I wasn't waiting," she countered. "Fine. Maybe you're studying, but it doesn't have to be this late," he added before heading to change. Her phone buzzed and she turned. It was Seokhyun. She hurriedly declined the call. "Why didn't you answer?" Junyoung questioned. "It was an unknown number," she lied. The phone rang again. "Don't ignore it. If someone's calling this late, it could be urgent," Junyoung suggested. Reluctantly, she answered. "Hello? Yoon Seol, why were you ignoring my calls?" Seokhyun's voice came through. "Do you even know what time it is?" She scolded, frustrated. "I just wanted to chat," he admitted sheepishly. "If it's not urgent, I'm hanging up. I moved, remember?" She reminded him. "Are you sharing a room with someone?" he asked suspiciously. Glancing at Junyoung, she replied, "Yes, I have a roommate. Don't call me randomly at night. Bye." Ending the call, she turned to Junyoung. "It wasn't urgent. I'm going to bed now, okay?" "About the roommate, did you mean me?" he asked. "Well, more or less," she muttered. "Good night." He stood there, speechless. The next morning, Junyoung went for his usual early morning run. Yoon Seol woke up alone, glancing at the empty sofa. He wakes up so early and comes home so late. Is it really okay for him to sleep on the couch every night? She wondered, feeling guilty. Later that night, past 1 o'clock, Junyoung returned quietly, noticing Yoon Seol fast asleep with her phone resting beside her. "For the past few days, I told you not to wait for me," he thought. "But when your roommate isn't here, you're talking to Seokhyun instead." His gaze darkened as he stared at the phone. Frustrated, he turned to change into his nightwear. After returning, he bent down to move her phone. Sensing movement, Yoon Seol stirred. "Junyoung, are you home?" she whispered sleepily. Caught off guard, he replied, "Oh, this isn't what you think. I was just moving your phone." "I wasn't thinking anything," she assured him softly. "I just wanted to say, what if you didn't sleep on the couch?" He froze, surprised. "I thought about it," she explained. "It's inconsiderate to make you sleep on the couch every night. I only made that rule because I thought there'd be separate beds, but we only have one bed, and it's not fair." Seeing him still frozen, she asked, "What's wrong?" "Are you sure? Of course I won't do anything strange." "I just don't want to make you uncomfortable," he said, cautiously. Turning her face slightly, she replied, "I'm not afraid. It's just, this position feels a bit awkward." She glanced back at him. noticing the faint smile forming on his lips. But be warned, I have a habit of kicking in my sleep, she added playfully. Junyoung settled on the other side of the bed. Turning her back to him, she thought, what am I doing, letting him sleep here? Closing her eyes, she reassured herself, relax, Yoon Seol. Just think of it as camping at school. Suddenly, Junyoung pulled her gently into his arms from behind. What are you doing? She whispered sharply. He whispered back, if we sleep like this, you won't kick me, and I don't want you moving to the sofa after I fall asleep. His warmth surrounded her, leaving her unable to argue. Slowly, she closed her eyes, letting herself relax as they both drifted into peaceful sleep in each other's embrace. Next morning, as Junyoung walked, memories of the previous night kept playing in his mind, bringing a small smile to his lips. Upon reaching home, he headed straight to the bedroom. Yoon Seol, what time is your class today? Should we go together? He called out. However, the room was empty. He called for her and checked every part of the house, but she was nowhere to be found. Concerned, he asked his mother, oh, she mentioned having an assignment and left early. Didn't she inform you? His mother replied casually. He stood there, unable to respond. At college, Yoon Seol, Kyung-eun, and Seokhyun walked together, sipping their coffee. This is so refreshing, Yoon Seol commented. Did you get enough sleep, or did you have a fight with your roommate? Seokhyun teased. Not really a fight. It's just that we slept together for the first time, she thought, recalling how unexpectedly comfortable she felt sleeping beside Junyoung. His embrace made me feel safe. Feeling awkward about seeing him in the morning, she had deliberately left before he woke up. Suddenly, Seokhyun asked, hey, your roommate, is she my type? You're always taking advantage of every situation, Yoon Seol scolded disdainfully. What's wrong with being curious? I just want to know more about her, he defended. Kyung-eun raised her hand and admitted, oh, I've met her. Really? Tell me more about her, Seokhyun urged eagerly. Well, she's both beautiful and handsome at the same time. With black hair, Kyung-eun described thoughtfully. Seokhyun turned to Yoon Seol. Please introduce me to her. We're friends after all, he requested with a playful grin. At that moment, Junyoung approached the group. Good afternoon, he greeted. Everyone except Yoon Seol responded, Good afternoon, Mr. Kang. Their eyes met, and tension rose between them. Seokhyun, unaware of their relationship, started chatting with Junyoung, causing Kyung-eun to comment quietly. Looks like his wish came true, meeting your roommate. Noticing Junyoung's ring, Seokhyun asked curiously, Mr. Kang, you're wearing a ring. Are you married? Startled, Yoon Seol quickly turned back. Thinking fast, Kyung-eun interjected. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, that's a military service ring, right? Yes, I've seen it before, Yoon Seol added hurriedly, playing along. Seokhyun, believing them, grabbed Yoon Seol's hand. People really fancy rings these days. See? Yoon Seol's wearing one too. Frustrated, she pulled her hand back. I told you last night that I've seen people wearing rings like this at the club too, Seokhyun added, still clueless. Junyoung silently observed the interaction, his sharp gaze fixed on them. Noticing his intense stare, Yoon Seol felt pressured. Is he angry? Is there something we need to discuss? She wondered. At home that evening, Yoon Seol cautiously asked, Why were you wearing the ring today? Aren't you wearing yours too? He countered. Yes, but I'm at least covering it up with other rings, she explained. Why? Are you afraid Seokhyun will notice? He asked pointedly. Why are you bringing him up? She shot back. Because he. Junyoung paused, realizing he shouldn't let emotions interfere in their contract marriage. Without another word, he grabbed her hand firmly. Never take off this ring, he commanded. Her eyes widened, her face flushing red at his intense behavior. Pulling her hand free, she barked. Why are you acting like this? Are you playing with my feelings or something? Playing with what? You're my wife, according to our contract, he retorted. You're the one who insisted on a marriage without emotions. Are you just following the contract? Or what about your feelings? She challenged. He froze, unable to find an answer. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Junyoung reflected. Feelings? They're irrelevant. Everything I'm doing is just fulfilling my role as her husband. Plenty of couples survive without involving feelings. I should have said tat. But why couldn't I? The next morning at breakfast, Mrs. Kang asked, Have you two planned your honeymoon yet? It's not good to delay it for too long after marriage. Junyoung, don't be too busy. Take your wife on vacation. We're thinking of going to Guam, Yoon Seol replied. That's great, Mr. Kang exclaimed. So when are you planning to go? At the beginning of summer? Mrs. Kang asked enthusiastically. Yes, that's right, Junyoung agreed. We're still adjusting the dates based on my project, Yoon Seol added. Then let's go shopping this weekend, Yoon Seol, Mrs. Kang suggested cheerfully. Hesitantly, Yoon Seol nodded. Okay, Mom. Later at the mall, Yoon Seol tried on a beautiful dress selected by Mrs. Kang. Mom, I think t-shirts and shorts are enough, she protested. You can buy what you want later, but I want to buy this for you. You look absolutely stunning in it, Mrs. Kang insisted warmly. Thank you, Mom, Yoon Seol said sincerely. While we're out, shall we grab dinner together? Mrs. Kang suggested. Oh, I'd love that, Yoon Seol replied excitedly. As they were leaving, someone called from behind. Aunt Hae-suk? They both turned, and Yoon Seol froze, shocked to see Soojin standing there. Oh, it's really you. Long time no see, Auntie, Soojin greeted warmly. Her eyes drifted toward Yoon Seol, widening in surprise. Yoon Seol, what are you doing with Aunt Hae-suk? Yoon Seol stood there frozen, struggling to respond. Oh, Soojin, it's you. I thought it was someone else, she stammered. But Mrs. Kang quickly recalled their agreement to keep the marriage a secret on campus. Aunt Hae-suk is my mom's friend, and we met by accident earlier, Yoon Seol explained nervously. Oh, really? Did you know she's Mr. Kang's mother? Soojin asked. No, I didn't know that, Yoon Seol lied. Later, Soojin asked Mrs. Kang, Aunt, can we have a meal together? Oh, sorry, but I already have plans with my family, Mrs. Kang replied politely. Oh, that means Junyoung's coming too. Can I join you, Aunt? Soojin asked eagerly. Mrs. Kang hesitated, unsure how to respond. Sensing the tension, Yoon Seol quickly interjected, I'm sorry, but I have a group assignment due. I should leave now. Thank you for today, Aunt. She hurried off as Mrs. Kang called after her. Yoon? But Soojin interrupted, so, which restaurant are we going to, Aunt? Later, while waiting for the bus, Yoon Seol thought, now what should I do? I can't head straight home because I told Junyoung's mother I had a group assignment. She'll worry if I'm late. It's better to let her know I'll be home soon. Her mind drifted back to Soojin. I didn't realize Soojin was so close to Junyoung's family. As she walked down the street, a car approached from behind. Yoon Seol, I thought I saw you, Seokhyun called out, stepping out of the car. What are you doing here? She asked, surprised. I was just dropping someone off at the dorm, he explained casually. He glanced at her outfit and teased, Why are you dressed like that? Were you on a blind date or attending a wedding? I was just out, she replied awkwardly. Where are you heading now? You haven't eaten dinner yet, right? Let's grab something together, he suggested enthusiastically, grabbing her hand and pulling her along. Meanwhile, at TJ Corp, Junyoung sat at his desk, staring at his phone. His friend Minjin noticed and approached. What are you looking at? My mom sent me the restaurant's address, Junyoung replied. Minjin chuckled. Isn't that place famous for dates? Maybe she wants you to join them since she's with Yoon Seol. Realizing the possibility, Junyoung stood up abruptly. Thanks, Minjin, he said, leaving quickly. Yoon Seol didn't seem in a good mood earlier. Maybe this will cheer her up. At the restaurant, a hostess directed Junyoung to a private room. He entered, ready to surprise Yoon Seol. Oh, Junyoung, you're here, Mrs. Kang greeted warmly. Yes, Mom, he replied, taking a seat. He turned and blinked in surprise. Soojin, what are you doing here? Weren't you shopping, Mom? Soojin smiled brightly. We bumped into each other earlier. We even saw Choi Yoon Seol, but she left. You know her, right? She added casually. Junyoung's expression darkened as he quickly pulled out his phone. He typed a message to Yoon Seol. Where are you? Are you okay? Should I come pick you up? Unable to suppress his worry, he abruptly stood up. I'm sorry, but something urgent just came up. He excused himself, leaving hurriedly while dialing her number. When Yoon Seol finally answered, he spoke sharply. Choi Yoon Seol, are you okay? I've called you so many times. She sounded calm on the other end. I'm in front of the campus. I'll be a little late. I'm eating with a friend before heading home. Junyoung's shoulders tensed as he heard a familiar voice in the background. Seokhyun's. So, she's with Seokhyun. And here I was, worried about her. But why do I feel so unsettled? At the restaurant, Seokhyun excused himself to wash his hands while Yoon Seol sat alone. Seokhyun, thank you, she called out. No problem, we're friends, Yoon Seol, he replied cheerfully. As she waited, her eyes fell on her wedding ring. Hesitating for a moment, she slowly slipped it off, placing it in her bag. Looking at her now bare finger, she thought, this is the first time I've taken it off. It feels strange, but what else can I do? When the food arrived, she called out, Seokhyun, hurry up, the food's here. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Finally, I found you, Choi Yoon Seol. Her eyes widened in shock, frozen mid-reach for her chopsticks. Junyoung stood there, slightly out of breath, his intense gaze fixed on her. Why is he here, she wondered, her heart pounding. As they settled at the table, Seokhyun remarked, Oh, I didn't expect Mr. Kang to eat here. Sorry if I'm disturbing your date, Junyoung said politely. Oh, it's not a date. I just happened to see Yoon Seol walking alone on the street, looking down, so I invited her here. Seokhyun clarified. You're a good friend, Junyoung commented. Feeling embarrassed, Yoon Seol snapped, If you keep talking, I'll just go home. Oh, Yoon Seol, eat first, Sokyun urged, offering her food with his chopsticks. I can eat by myself, she mumbled, stealing glances at Junyoung, who sat there with a darkened expression. As they left the restaurant, Sokyun offered, Let me drop you off. Your house is too far. I can just take the bus, she replied. What if I drive you there? It seems Yoon Seol's house is in the same direction as mine, Junyoung suggested. Mr. Kang, do you know where she lives? Even I don't know, Sokyun asked curiously. You're making it too obvious, Junyoung, Yoon Seol thought nervously. No, I've just seen Yoon Seol around my area, Junyoung replied smoothly. Oh, that's great. Could you please drop her off then? Sokyun asked excitedly. Is he too innocent or what? Yoon Seol wondered. Of course, Junyoung replied, smiling. In that case, I'll leave first. My car's parked far, Sokyun said as he waved goodbye. As he left, Junyoung turned to Yoon Seol. Let's go home then. You go first, I'll come later, she insisted. I didn't come here to leave alone, he stated firmly. Then why did you come? To make everyone uncomfortable, she retorted. What can I do? You didn't answer my calls and went with another guy instead, he shot back. He's not another guy. He's my friend. What about Sujin then? She asked, visibly annoyed. Are you jealous? Is that why you didn't join us for dinner? He questioned, his eyes narrowing. Jealous of what? I didn't go because I wanted to keep our marriage secret and not make things difficult for Mom, she replied. Turning slightly, she added, I don't like the smell of meat on my clothes, so I'll just walk around until Mom falls asleep. As she walked alone down the street, Junyoung stood there watching her retreating figure. Suddenly, he stepped forward and caught up to her, intertwining their fingers, startling her as she met his sharp gaze. Blushing, she thought, why is he acting like this? And why am I happy? As they entered a nearby park, she mused, what is he thinking every time he touches me like this? Is he holding my hand just to keep me from walking away? Should I let go? When she attempted to pull her hand back, he tightened his grip. Raising their clasped hands, he asked, Did you take off your ring? Startled, she quickly explained, I wasn't wearing any other rings, so I took it off. Just to be cautious. She fumbled through her bag and showed him the ring. Without a word, he gently took the ring from her and slid it back onto her finger. Her cheeks burned as he tightened his grip on her hand again, leading her further into the park. Junyoung, look here, she called out, dashing toward a bed of roses. Inhaling their scent, she beamed. Junyoung, come here, they smell so nice. He stood still, watching her with softened eyes. I've been thinking lately. I hope to be the person you seek when you need a place to run. I want you to smile, just for MME. I want to know everything about you. I tried to hold back these feelings, but it's hard because my body moves on its own. It's like butterflies trying to escape their cage. Is this the feeling Yoon Seol meant? The smell of roses is the same as home, she mused. When I left home, this same scent lingered on me. But I guess I spent too much time at the restaurant. She leaned closer to him, sniffing lightly. Oh, you still smell like roses, she noted. Looking up at him, she asked, Can you smell the roses on me too? His gaze darkened with intensity. I don't want to let you go. Not to anyone else. Leaning in until only a breath separated their lips, I want to have you, completely. Before she could respond, he sealed her lips with his. Surprised but willing, she kissed him back, wrapping her arms around him as he pulled her closer. Lost in each other's embrace, they felt warmth and happiness replacing all the uncertainties that had weighed on them. Finally, smiles appeared on their faces, as if the butterflies they'd both kept caged had finally been set free. As summer vacation arrived, they finally headed for their honeymoon. Sitting beside Junyoung on the flight, Yoon Seol thought sitting next to him for hours isn't easy, especially after that night. A few weeks had passed, but nothing significant happened between them since. They hadn't even talked about the kiss. Were there any real feelings behind it, she wondered. An air hostess approached Junyoung. Sir, do you need anything, she asked. No, I'm fine, he replied politely. As she walked away, Junyoung leaned toward Yoon Seol. A little help here, please. I keep getting the same question again and again. Well, what can I do? Your mom gave birth to such a good-looking son, she teased. He gently grabbed her hand and laid her head on his chest. What I mean is, stay like this. She glanced at their intertwined hands for a moment before closing her eyes, finding comfort in his presence. When they arrived in Guam, Yoon Seol gasped at their hotel room. Wow, this room is amazing. I can see the ocean from here, and there's even a jacuzzi. Perfect. She rushed excitedly toward the bedroom but froze when she saw the bed decorated with flowers, radiating a clear honeymoon vibe. Before she could react, Junyoung entered carrying their bags. Seeing her standing stiffly, he approached her, concerned. Choi Yoon Seol, why are you standing there? Oh, nothing. The bedroom is just really impressive, she stammered. So, where do you want to go next? He asked casually. I'll go wherever you go, she replied quickly. Let's check this out first, he suggested, grabbing her hand and leading her outside. As they stood by the ocean, Yoon Seol sighed contentedly. It's so beautiful. You could sip soda and watch the sunset forever. I want to live here. I didn't expect you to enjoy this honeymoon so much, he teased. It's a vacation, how could I not enjoy it? She replied playfully. Besides, I'm just happy we finally got to go on our honeymoon. What do you mean? He asked, tilting his head. We were so busy we never really had the chance to talk. I want to be closer to you, she admitted, her eyes soft with affection. He stared at her, taking in her sincerity, then smirked teasingly. You're not talking about the honeymoon night, are you? Embarrassed, she turned and walked back toward the room. Never mind, forget it. Maybe I'm the only one thinking this way, not Junyoung. Am I just a toy to him? She thought sadly. Before she could step away, Junyoung grabbed her hand. Choi Yoon Seol, I'm sorry, I was just joking. I was joking too. This honeymoon is just a formality, right? She replied, forcing a smile. No, he pulled her into a tight embrace. I want to be close to you too. They held each other quietly, savoring the moment. Later, inside the hotel room, Junyoung called out, Are you ready yet? What your mom bought is nice, but I don't feel comfortable wearing this, she replied from the bathroom. Why? Not? He asked, while unbuttoning his shirt. When no answer came, he walked over and opened the bathroom door without warning. Don't just barge in like that, she snapped, flustered. His face turned red as he saw her in a striking red swimsuit. Didn't I tell you to wait? And why are you walking around shirtless? She demanded. He quickly grabbed a towel and wrapped it around her. We're going swimming. Don't wear this, wear something else. But your mom gave it to me, she explained. It's fine, she's not here to see, he insisted. Looking away, she said shyly, but I didn't bring any other swimsuit. How about relaxing in the jacuzzi instead? If it's just you, I don't mind. Junyoung's face flushed even deeper. He turned abruptly. No, let's just buy another swimsuit. You said you were uncomfortable, right? Later, they strolled hand in hand by the ocean, enjoying the view in each other's presence. Sitting together, sipping drinks, Junyoung asked, Is Gyeong-eun your childhood friend? Yes, she knows everything about me, even things my grandfather doesn't know, she replied. So, I could ask her about all your secrets? He teased. You could, or you could just ask me. What do you want to know? She challenged. Wrapping his arm around her waist, he leaned in. I want to know everything. Her cheeks turned pink. But before she could respond, she spotted people from their home country. What if someone recognizes us? She whispered, worried. We're far from home, he reassured her. Still uneasy, she stood up. I need to use the restroom. I'll be back soon, she said and left. In the restroom, Yoon Seol stood thinking. Is he mad that I left? She wondered. We've kissed before, but after that night, it feels different. She touched her chest where her heart pounded. Her mind drifted back to a conversation with Gyeong-eun. No one kisses just for practice, Gyeong-eun had said confidently. That's just an excuse. You're into each other. So, you're saying Junyoung has feelings for me too? Yoon Seol had asked, uncertain. Gyeong-eun had smiled knowingly. Junyoung too? That means you have feelings for him. Wow, my friend Choi Yoon Seol is finally in love. Realizing her feelings, Yoon Seol hurried out. Jun, she called out but stopped abruptly, her eyes widening in shock. Sitting next to Junyoung was Sujin, holding onto his arm. Oh, Choi Yoon Seol, you're here too. Did you come with Gyeong-eun? Sujin asked cheerfully. Yoon Seol stood frozen, unable to process the sight before her, her heart sinking at their unexpected closeness. But soon coming to her senses, Yoon Seol asked, Are you here for vacation too? Unfortunately, no. I'm here for a photo shoot. It should have been a vacation though, Sujin replied with a sad face. But I won't be bored since Junyoung is here too. He even ordered me my favorite drink, see? She added happily, clinging to Junyoung. Isn't that my drink? Yoon Seol thought. Suddenly a staff member approached. Miss Sujin, please come. It's time to change your makeup. Sujin stood up, dragging Junyoung with her. Come, Junyoung, watch my photo shoot. People will be happy to see you. But I have plans with someone else, he replied. Oh, with Yoon Seol? She asked. No, of course not. Bye, Sujin. Bye, Mr. Kang, Yoon Seol quickly interjected, waving her hand. Junyoung glanced back at Yoon Seol upon hearing her reply, his expression unreadable, before Sujin dragged him away. Yoon Seol stood there watching their disappearing figures. At the shooting site, a staff member asked Junyoung, Are you Sujin's friend or a model? No, I'm not a model, he replied. Just then, Sujin returned. How do I look? She asked Junyoung. He glanced at her with mild annoyance but replied politely. You look good. Can I go now? Sorry, but I have other plans. Good luck with your photo shoot. Sujin grabbed his hand. What's the rush? Can't you stay and watch? She asked affectionately. Without hesitation, he turned and said firmly, No, I'm leaving now. He rushed back to the spot where he last saw Yoon Seol, calling out her name. But the area was empty. She was gone. Quickly returning to the hotel, he checked every room, the living area, the bedroom, even the bathroom. But she was nowhere to be found. Pulling out his phone, he heard it ring, but the sound came from the bathroom shelf. She'd forgotten her phone. Worry consumed him. Where did she go? She doesn't know anyone here. His mind filled with unanswered questions. Suddenly, the door creaked open. He turned sharply as Yoon Seol walked in, closing the door behind her. "Yoon Seol, where were you?" he asked, rushing toward her. "Oh, I just went to buy a swimsuit," she explained. "You should have informed me," he said, his voice still tense. "How could I? Sujin was with you. You two were together for a while, but don't worry, I didn't misunderstand," she replied. He grabbed both her hands, causing the shopping bag to fall to the floor. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "I was worried, you know. Is this the feeling you were talking about, Choi Yoon Seol?" he whispered into her ear. Her face flushed red at his words. Slowly, she raised her hands and wrapped them around him. They hugged passionately, feeling each other's warmth. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. "Hey, Junyoung," Sujin's voice called out from outside. Panicking, Yoon Seol turned her face. "Junyoung, that's Sujin." "How did she—" "Just ignore her," he interrupted. "I didn't invite her. Let's stay like this. No need to care about her." Despite Sujin persistently knocking and calling out, they stayed still. After a while, Sujin wondered aloud. "According to the receptionist, this is the right room, or maybe he's out," and eventually left. Realizing Sujin was gone, Yoon Seol asked, "Junyoung, how could I not care about her?" "What do you mean?" he asked. "Isn't it risky if she sees us together?" "We nearly got caught earlier," she replied, worried. "Are you that scared that people on campus will find out about our marriage?" he questioned. "It's not that, but if she finds out, she'll make a huge fuss. It's obvious she likes you," Yoon Seol admitted. "I don't care about her, and I don't like her," he said firmly. "And also, we are on our honeymoon," he added, brushing his thumb against her lips. "So just focus on me and forget about everyone else," he whispered, lifting her chin toward him. He leaned down, wrapping his arms around her waist. "From now on, you are not allowed to go out without me, Choi Yoon Seol," he said possessively. Then, he captured her lips in a deep kiss. She responded, wrapping one hand behind his neck and clutching his shirt with the other. As the kiss deepened, their passion ignited, leaving them breathless. His lips trailed down to her neck, placing passionate kisses, making her moan softly. When their eyes met again, she saw love, desire, and longing reflected in his gaze. Overwhelmed by the intensity, she shyly turned her face to the side, her heart pounding. In the next moment, he swept her off the floor, wrapping her legs securely around his waist. Instinctively, she encircled her arms around his neck for support. His face drew closer, and he captured her lips in a passionate kiss. She clung tightly to him, her arms and legs holding him as if afraid to let go, surrendering to the intensity of the moment. With steady steps, he carried her toward the bedroom. Gently, he laid her down on the soft mattress, his body hovering just above hers. His eyes traced her delicate features, engraving every detail into his memory. Slowly, he intertwined his fingers with hers, pinning her hands gently against the bed. As the night unfolded, it became clear that this was far beyond a contract marriage. Morning came, sunlight streaming through the windows. Clothes lay scattered across the floor, and half-finished wine glasses rested on the table. Yoon Seol slowly opened her eyes. "It's still early. Sleep more. I'll wake you up in an hour," Junyoung's voice murmured from above her. Realization dawned on her. She sat up, quickly pulling the blanket around her. He wrapped his arm around her from behind. "Don't you remember? Or do we need to do it again?" he teased. Leaning in, he placed a soft kiss on her forehead. "Don't worry, I'm just teasing you, although I wouldn't mind holding you a little longer," he added, pulling her closer into his embrace. She sank into his embrace, her head resting against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. It resonated through her, calming and grounding her in a way she couldn't explain. Slowly, she raised her face, wrapped her arms around his neck, and pressed her lips softly against his. "For some reason, his heartbeat calms me, makes me feel safe," she thought. "It even feels like our hearts are in sync, as if we've become one." On their last day, Junyoung asked, "Have you packed everything?" Noticing her standing outside alone, he approached and asked, "What are you doing out here by yourself?" "I wanted to call Grandpa," Yoon Seol replied. Wrapping his arms around her from behind, he whispered, "You shouldn't be out here alone. It'll only make him worry more." As the call connected, Grandpa asked warmly, "How are you two?" Meanwhile, her aunt playfully complained, "Why are you calling now, only on your last day?" "Sorry about that," Junyoung answered smoothly. "We were so caught up spending time together that we lost track of time." "That's good," her aunt teased mischievously. "Does that mean there might be a honeymoon baby soon?" Junyoung chuckled, clutching Yoon Seol closer. Don't worry, Aunt. We'll do our best. After exchanging goodbyes and well wishes, Junyoung waved toward the phone and said, Don't worry, Grandpa. I'll take good care of Yoon Seol. Once the call ended, Yoon Seol smiled. Thank you, Junyoung. Grandpa looks really happy. And what about you? He asked softly, his gaze tender. Looking at the ocean, she replied, I'm happy too, seeing Grandpa that happy. I'm glad, he answered, his eyes filled with affection. Upon returning home, they visited Gyeonon. You two really look like a couple fresh off a honeymoon, she teased. Stop teasing, Yoon Seol groaned. But something feels different about you, Yoon Seol. Don't tell me something happened during the honeymoon, Gyeonon pressed with a knowing smirk. Just stop, Yoon Seol muttered, avoiding her gaze. Junyoung smiled and asked, Mind if I wait here for Minjin? Of course not, Gyeonon replied. Turning mischievous, Junyoung added, Can I ask you anything about Yoon Seol while I wait? Annoyed, Yoon Seol interrupted. Why don't you just ask me directly? Ignoring her, Gyeonon smirked. Sure. What do you want to know? Is it true that Yoon Seol has kissed 108 times? Junyoung asked with a playful glint in his eyes. 108 times? Did she really say that? Gyeonon burst out laughing. Gyeonon, don't say anything, Yoon Seol pleaded. That's impossible. She hasn't even dated anyone before, Gyeonon revealed. Junyoung raised an eyebrow. Then what's the story behind the 108th kiss? Before Yoon Seol could respond, Minjin arrived. Hey, Minjin? She greeted quickly. Hey, Yoon Seol, Gyeonon, nice to see you. Sorry, but we have to go, Minjin said, gesturing for Junyoung to follow. All right, see you at home, Yoon Seol said, practically pushing Junyoung out the door. As she returned, Gyeonon couldn't resist. 108 kisses? She teased again. Stop teasing, Yoon Seol groaned. But don't you think your husband deserves to know? Gyeonon pressed, still laughing. By the way, did my gift come in handy during the honeymoon? Yoon Seol flushed. Actually, something else happened. What? Gyeonon asked, intrigued. Yoon Seol explained everything about Sujin's sudden appearance during their honeymoon. I can't believe it. If it wasn't a coincidence, could Sujin really be stalking Mr. Kang? Gyeonon speculated. Maybe it was just a coincidence since I haven't seen her since then? Yoon Seol replied thoughtfully. But I need your help again, do you mind? Of course not. What is it? Gyeonon asked. Before Yoon Seol could explain, her phone rang. It was Seokhyun. I've got good news for you, he announced excitedly. What is it? She asked. Remember that blind date I went on? Well, I got offered an internship at her friend's company. Do you want to join me? He asked eagerly. Why are you only inviting her? Gyeonon cut in. What are you even doing without me? Seokhyun teased back. Meanwhile, Yoon Seol thought, it's not a bad idea. But do I need Junyoung's permission? Should I ask anyway? Later that night, Yoon Seol sat on the sofa, scrolling through the company details Seokhyun had sent earlier. Junyoung entered the room, towel drying his hair. I thought you were asleep, he said. She turned, stunned. Why are you without clothes? She stammered, covering her face. Why? Is there a problem? This is my room too, he replied nonchalantly. He bent down and playfully pinched her cheeks, making her face puff up. Isn't it normal to see your roommate like this? He teased. Stop teasing me. Yeon-eun's been at it all day, she complained. Did she ask about her gift from before? He smirked. Yes, she did, Yoon Seol admitted, blushing. So, do you regret not using it? He asked, leaning in closer. Wait, she yelped, placing her hand over his lips. There's something I want to talk about. I don't know if I need your permission, but I want to do an internship, she confessed. He paused, considering her words. Why? I want to spend the rest of my vacation doing something valuable, gaining experience, she explained earnestly. You can intern at TJ Corp, he suggested, sitting beside her and wrapping an arm around her shoulders. That's exactly what I don't want. I want to do it on my own, she insisted. You're really something, he said with a soft chuckle. All right, but first, you owe me a reward. What reward? Don't tell me TJ Corp charges employees like this. She shot back playfully. That's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that before? He teased, leaning even closer. Placing a finger on his lips, she declared, No way. You're not getting it that easily. Oh yeah? He smirked. Just try stopping me, he challenged, closing the distance. The next day, Yoon Seol waited at a cafe. Seokhyun rushed in, panting. Sorry I'm late. I overslept. You could have texted me, she scolded. Forget that. We don't need to check the company details anymore, he announced excitedly. What happened? Did you change your mind? She asked. No, haven't you heard? Mr. Kang's company just opened an internship program. Since we scored the highest marks in the last test, we can join directly, he explained. Lucky that I was in your group, he added with a grin. Meanwhile, Yoon Seol's mind raced. This has to be Kang Junyoung's doing. I really underestimated him. He tricked me. The next morning, Yoon Seol announced, Mother, Father, starting next week, I will begin my internship during vacation. Mrs. Kang looked concerned and asked, Why? Are you out of money? Is Junyoung not giving you a credit card? Yoon Seol smiled and replied, It's not like that, Mom. This internship will help me with my future career. Mr. Kang asked, Which company are you planning to intern at? Let me know, and I'll contact them for you. Flustered, Yoon Seol grabbed Junyoung's hand for support and said, There's no need, Dad. Junyoung quickly explained, Yoon Seol, along with several other students, will be interning at my company, so there's nothing to worry about, Dad. Hearing this, Mr. and Mrs. Kang looked relieved. As they approached the parking area, Yoon Seol demanded, Junyoung, wait a minute. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? Junyoung opened the car door, turned to her, and said, There's nothing to explain. Yoon Seol tapped on the car door, closing it, and said, You deceived me. Yesterday you said it was fine if I wanted to do an internship. Then why did you suddenly announce this internship program? Smirking, Junyoung replied, Oh, about that. I never agreed to you interning at another company, and I'm not forcing you to intern at mine. Raising her chin gently, he added, I just want to keep being with my wife. That's all. Yoon Seol puffed her cheeks, but realized there was no point in arguing. All right, but don't treat me differently from the other interns, she said firmly. He smiled and replied, Okay, with pleasure. On the first day at TJ Corp, Young Mi, the supervisor, greeted the interns. Welcome. Sova's a company focused on hotel and resort planning. In the near future, we'll be working on a hotel project in Yongsan. Please assist us for the next month. Before we begin, does anyone have any questions? Seokhyun raised his hand. I have one, he said. Yes, please, Youngmi replied. How old are you, miss? He asked, making everyone uncomfortable. Awkwardly, Youngmi responded, Just ask a question related to work, okay? Suddenly, a woman entered the room and said, Please save personal questions for after work. Everyone turned toward her. Youngmi introduced her. This is Yoon Haejung, the secretary to Mr. Kang. The group greeted her. Good morning. She replied, Good morning. Who is Yoon Seol and Seokhyun? Mr. Kang has called for you both. As they walked through the office, Yoon Seol thought, So, this is what Junyoung's company looks like. Yoon Haejung opened the office door and announced, Mr. Kang, they're here. She indicated for them to enter. Thank you, Secretary Yoon, Seokhyun said. As they entered, Yoon Seol noticed Junyoung sitting at his desk, working. This is my first time seeing his office and how he works, she thought. Junyoung looked up and said, Welcome to Sov. I hope your internship here provides you with valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Kang, Seokhyun replied. We'll make the most of it. Yoon Seol and I almost interned at another company. Junyoung's expression darkened. Oh, were you planning to intern together, he asked. Definitely. Yoon Seol is like a lost girl without me, Seokhyun teased. Junyoung grabbed his tablet and said, Okay, you can ask anything to Secretary Yoon. You may start your work now. As they left the office, Yoon Seol glanced back at Junyoung, who was already focused on his work. Why is he so cold? Or she wondered. Later, as Yoon Seol searched for a file, Seokhyun asked, What are you looking for? Miss Youngmi asked me to find last year's hotel project file, but I haven't found it yet, she replied. Picking up a file, Seokhyun said, Oh, this one? I've checked them all. How did I miss it? She puzzled, tapping the file lightly on her head. Seokhyun teased, You must have lost focus because you haven't eaten. I'll eat after giving this file to Miss Youngmi, she replied. Realizing he might have tapped her too hard, Seokhyun patted her head and asked, Did I hit you too hard? Just put your hand away, she said irritably. Not far away, Junyoung observed the interaction, visibly annoyed. Secretary Yoon, move the 4 o'clock meeting to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, he ordered as he walked past with his subordinates. Noticing him, Yoon Seol greeted, Good afternoon, bowing politely. Junyoung walked past her without responding, as though he hadn't seen her. Did he just ignore me? She wondered, wide-eyed. Turning back with annoyance, she saw Junyoung greet another employee who had bowed to him. I asked him not to treat me differently, but is it really so hard to return my greeting or even smile? She thought irritably. The next day, as Yoon Seol sat at her desk, she overheard 2 colleagues talking. Hey, I was in the same elevator as Director Kang this morning, and he held the door for me. He looks cold, but he's kind, one of them said. Yeah, whoever becomes his wife will be lucky. Do you think I have a chance? The other joked. Hearing their conversation, Yoon Seol thought, so he's being nice to other people. But ever since that day, he hasn't returned my greetings or treated me like an employee. It's so hard to meet him since he's always busy, and he only reaches out when it suits him. I knew it. Interning at Junyoung's office was a mistake from the start. Just then, Youngmi called out, Yoon Seol, could you help me buy some coffee? Sure, Yoon Seol replied. As she passed by Jin Young's office, she glanced at it but thought, focus on your work, Yoon Seol. No need to overthink this. At the elevator, as the doors began to close, she called out, wait! The doors opened, and she stepped in, thanking whoever held them. But when she looked up, her eyes widened. It was Jin Young. He stared at her and asked, are you coming or not? Yes, she replied, stepping into the elevator. As they stood silently, the tension grew unbearable. Unable to hold back, she asked, Jin Young, are you mad at me? Why would you think that? Besides, aren't you hiding something from me? Why didn't you tell me you were planning to intern with Seokhyun from the start? He countered. Frustrated, she grabbed his hand. Why are you bringing him up again? Are you suspecting me? Is that why you're angry and avoiding me? Turning slightly, he replied, do you think there's a husband whose feelings wouldn't be hurt seeing his wife constantly with another man? Before she could respond, the elevator stopped, and the doors opened. Hello, Mr. Kang, and hello, Yoon Seol, Seokhyun greeted with a grin. Jin Young exited the elevator saying, hello, Seokhyun, I'll leave first. As Seokhyun turned to Yoon Seol, he noticed her tears. Yoon, are you crying? Are you hurt? He asked worriedly. Hearing this, Jin Young turned back to look at her, but the elevator doors closed. What have I done? Jin Young thought, feeling guilt overwhelm him. He turned and rushed toward the staircase, thinking, why did I leave her with Seokhyun? When he reached the floor, he saw Yoon Seol and Seokhyun buying coffee together. He stood frozen, unable to approach. Just then, his phone rang. After listening briefly, he replied, okay, I'll be there. Taking one last glance at them, he turned and walked away. As they headed back with the coffee, Seokhyun asked, are you really okay? If you're not feeling well, you should take a day off. I'm fine, Seokhyun, Yoon Seol replied firmly. All right, but if you start feeling unwell, let me know, okay? He said with concern. As they entered the crowded elevator, Seokhyun positioned himself to shield Yoon Seol. You're not getting pushed around, are you? He asked. No, I'm fine, she replied, her tone light. While they stood in the packed elevator, Seokhyun glanced at her, something unfamiliar stirring in his eyes. Late that night at the Kang house, when Jin Young returned, he softly called out, Yoon Seol! However, she was already asleep. He carefully took her hand and lay beside her, wrapping her in his arms. He whispered into her ear, Yoon Seol, I don't know if you're really asleep or just avoiding me, but I want to tell you something. Just like you don't like Sujin constantly chasing after me, I don't like seeing Seokhyun always by your side. The next day, Secretary Yoon informed Yoon Seol that Director Kang had another meeting and wouldn't be able to join them at the hotel to finalize the contract. He's already signed the documents, she added. Taking the file, Yoon Seol glanced at Jun Young's office door thinking, is Jun Young still angry? At the hotel, as she opened the folder, she realized it was empty. Look around, it might have fallen somewhere, Youngmi suggested. Seokhyun smiled and said, oh, it's in the office near Yoon Seol's desk. Yoon Seol immediately apologized. I'm so sorry, senior. I was careless. It's all right, but be more careful next time, Youngmi said gently. Is there anyone in the office who can deliver it? She asked. Everyone's busy, but I can go. I have a car, Seokhyun offered. That evening, the team gathered to celebrate their successful project and cheered for Seokhyun, who had saved the day. Yoon Seol expressed her apologies again, but Seokhyun waved her off cheerfully. What's important is that we succeeded. Now just have fun, okay? He said with enthusiasm. At that moment, Youngmi called out, oh, Director Kang is here. Jun Young entered with his usual composed demeanor. Good evening, everyone, he greeted. To celebrate your success, you can order as much as you want tonight, he added, sparking loud cheers from the group. Yoon Seol glanced at him, her expression unreadable. As Jun Young sat down with the team, he turned to Seokhyun and said, it's clear your internship at SOV hasn't been in vain, Seokhyun. Of course. I told you I wouldn't disappoint you, sir, Seokhyun replied with a confident grin. You two seem close, Youngmi remarked curiously. Oh, Mr. Kang teaches at our campus, Seokhyun explained. There must be so many people who admire him. By any chance, do you know if he has a girlfriend? Youngmi whispered to Seokhyun. Before Seokhyun could answer, Jin Young spoke up, I don't have one. Summoning her courage, Youngmi asked, so, do you like anyone? Yoon Seol glanced at Jin Young, her heart racing. I wonder what he'll say. Jin Young finally replied, who knows? Besides, I don't think any woman would have feelings for me. With a face like that, how is that possible? If I weren't your employee, I'd probably chase after you too. Don't you think so, Yoon Seol? Youngmi asked, turning the attention to her. Before Yoon Seol could respond, Jun Young took a piece of meat and placed it in her bowl. Is that true, Choi Yoon Seol? He asked, his tone calm but pointed. At the same time, Seokhyun also placed a piece of meat in her bowl, saying, Sir, you don't need to I'm always the one in charge of giving food to Yoon Seol. Youngmi smiled and teased, you always take care of Yoon Seol, Seokhyun. Then she turned to Junyoung and asked, Director, are they a couple on campus? Seokhyun casually wrapped his arm around Yoon Seol's shoulders and said, we're close friends, senior. Provoked, Junyoung said, I think it's impossible for a man and a woman to just be friends. Eventually you'll feel attracted to your female friend, especially if she's as beautiful as Choi Yoon Seol. Finally, Yoon Seol spoke up, her tone firm. Sir, I think you've had too much to drink. I don't believe all friends are attracted to each other. I've never been interested in Seokhyun. In fact, we'd probably annoy each other if we tried. Seokhyun turned to her and said softly, But I've never thought you were annoying, Yoon Seol. In fact, I'm attracted to you. Yoon Seol's eyes widened in shock, while Junyoung's expression darkened, his suspicions seemingly confirmed. As the celebration ended, everyone thanked each other and began to leave. Yoon Seol, let me take you home. It's late, Seokhyun offered. There's no need, Yoon Seol replied firmly. Suddenly, Junyoung appeared, placing a hand on her shoulder. Since our homes are in the same direction, I'll take her home, he said. Junyoung grabbed her hand, and Seokhyun noticed. Acting quickly, Seokhyun grabbed her other hand. Mr. Kang, you drank quite a bit earlier. I'll take Yoon Seol home while you wait for a replacement driver, Seokhyun argued. You don't need to worry about that. I'll use the company's driver, Junyoung said, his tone firm. Before things escalated, Yoon Seol called out, Seokhyun, and he turned to her. If you take me home, it'll be inconvenient for you. So I'll go with Mr. Kang, she said, gently releasing her hand from Seokhyun's grip. As they walked away, she waved and said, See you tomorrow, Seokhyun. Seokhyun stood frozen, watching her leave with Junyoung. At the Kang house, as soon as they reached the bedroom, Junyoung slammed the door shut, pinning Yoon Seol against it and kissing her fervently, as though he hadn't tasted her lips in days. When he pulled back, he whispered, Finally, I can see you while you're not asleep. Touching his lips, Yoon Seol exclaimed, Wait, how can you behave like this? Her voice sharpened as she continued, Do you think this is fun, getting angry out of nowhere and then leaving me? I never left, Junyoung replied firmly. Breaking free from his embrace, she said, What about the time in the elevator, and disappearing quietly in the morning? Junyoung, I don't want any misunderstandings. I've been thinking about my feelings toward you and I like you even more now. Her voice softened as she confessed. Junyoung's eyes widened slightly at her words. But I'm afraid, she admitted. You always tease me. If you don't want to reply to my feelings, that's okay. You can ignore me, she said, her worry evident. Junyoung rushed forward, wrapping her in his arms. No way. I'm not teasing you, he said earnestly. I've liked you since the very beginning of this marriage. And now, I constantly think about you and crave your presence, he confessed before closing the distance with another kiss. The next morning in the parking area at TJ Corp, Yoon Seol hesitated. Junyoung, I think I should get out first. What if someone sees us? What, are you worried that Seokhyun will see us? Junyoung asked. Why are you bringing him up again? I told you already. He's just my friend. Don't you have any female friends? She asked in frustration. No, he replied flatly. Whatever, I'll go first, she said, opening the door. But before she could leave, he grabbed her hand. You haven't repaid me yet, he said, pointing to his cheek. Realizing what he meant, she stared at him briefly before leaning closer to kiss him. It'll be troublesome if someone sees us, she muttered just before her lips neared his cheek. However, Junyoung turned his head, capturing her lips instead. She pushed against his chest in protest, but he tightened his grip, prolonging the kiss. Eventually, she managed to break free and stepped out of the car, flustered. Junyoung followed her out, but just as they exited, they heard a voice. Choi Yoon Seol and Director Kang, why were you both in the same car? It was Youngmi. Thinking quickly, Yoon Seol replied, Oh, we ran into each other by chance, so he gave me a ride. With a knowing grin, Youngmi said, Oh, I see. But Director, you might want to remove the lipstick stains from your mouth. Covering her eyes playfully, she added, I'll go ahead, before leaving. Inside the office, as Yoon Seol tried to settle down, Seokhyun approached her. Are you close to Mr. Kang? He asked. No. What do you mean? You're overthinking things, she replied hastily. Before he could probe further, Youngmi called out, Seokhyun, please get the documents from the sales department. As he left, Seokhyun glanced back at Junyoung, thinking, Yoon Seol isn't someone who gets attached easily, but they do seem close. Is it because he gave her a ride, or am I just overthinking? Later, as Yoon Seol worked, Junyoung approached her, sipping coffee. What are you doing here? What if someone sees us and rumors start spreading? We should be careful, she whispered urgently. Maybe we should just tell them about our marriage. Then we wouldn't need to hide it anymore, Junyoung said nonchalantly. No, I don't want them to treat me differently if they know I'm your wife, she replied firmly. We only agreed to keep it secret in college. Why do we need to hide it here? He questioned casually. Meanwhile, as Seokhyun returned from the sales department, he spotted Junyoung and Yoon Seol together. What he saw made him freeze. Junyoung handed Yoon Seol his coffee, and she blushingly sipped from the same straw he had just used. Are they really that close? No way, Seokhyun thought, his eyes widening. The files he was carrying slipped from his hands, catching Youngmi's attention. Curious, she approached him. Noticing his frozen state, she followed his gaze and saw Junyoung and Yoon Seol interacting. A smile spread across her face as she whispered, Seokhyun, I think they're dating. Earlier, I saw them getting out of the same car, and I also saw Yoon Seol wiping something off the director's face. Seokhyun stood there, unable to process what he was hearing. So, when will you tell Seokhyun about us? Junyoung asked Yoon Seol. Even if we're keeping it a secret from others, you should at least tell your friend. Yeah, but it's not the same as telling Gyeon-eun, Yoon Seol expressed hesitantly. Why? He's just a friend, so tell him as soon as possible. Junyoung pressed. Why are you pushing this so hard? She asked. Because I think you're more than just a friend to him. He said it himself the other day, Junyoung replied firmly. Oh, it doesn't mean he has any special feelings for me, she said casually. Junyoung frowned. You really still don't know? He asked pointedly. What I know is that he treats all his female friends the same way, Yoon Seol thought to herself. But what if Junyoung is right? Will Seokhyun be okay if I tell him about us? Or would it make things worse if I don't say anything? Her thoughts weighed heavily on her mind. At her desk, she turned toward Seokhyun and called out, Seokhyun, do you have some free time after work? There's something I need to tell you. With a faint smile, he replied, Oh, what a coincidence. I also have something I want to tell you. Meanwhile, Junyoung sat in his office, reading the message from Yoon Seol. I will tell Seokhyun today what you told me earlier, so you go ahead first. I'll come home after speaking with him. At the cafe, as Yoon Seol and Seokhyun sat together, she glanced around and commented, This is such a beautiful cafe. It's perfect for taking pictures. But, honestly, I feel like we don't really belong here. It's more suited for couples. Seokhyun set his drink down. What's wrong with us being here? He asked, his tone serious. Caught off guard, Yoon Seol laughed nervously. Oh, don't take it seriously, I was just saying. Since we're friends, it feels a bit out of place, she explained awkwardly. Without warning, Seokhyun reached out and held her hand, his grip steady. Yoon Seol, he began, his voice firm. Starting today, I don't want us to just be friends anymore. From the very beginning, I've always liked you. Pulling her hand away, she asked seriously, Last time, you rejected me and said you were joking. So why now? That was sudden, and I wasn't prepared. But when I saw you with Mr. Kang, I felt confused and anxious. That's when I realized my feelings for you, he admitted calmly. So Junyoung was right. I need to tell him about our marriage before this gets worse, Yoon Seol thought. Seokhyun, actually Mr. Kang is. Before she could finish, Seokhyun grabbed her shoulders. Yoon Seol, I know Mr. Kang is attractive, but I know you better than he does. If you want to date someone else first, that's okay. I'll wait for you patiently, he said with affection. With a sigh, Yoon Seol began. Seokhyun, calm down and listen to me. You don't need to wait for me. We can only be friends because I'm already married to Mr. Kang. Her words left Seokhyun in shock. He pulled his hands away. Yoon Seol, are you out of your mind? You shouldn't joke about marriage. Did he ask you to marry him? He's just teasing you, don't fall for it, Seokhyun said angrily. It's true. I was the one who asked her to marry me, and it wasn't a joke. Junyoung's voice cut through the tension. He walked in, grabbed Yoon Seol's hand, and removed all her rings except the wedding ring, showing it to Seokhyun. Sorry, Seokhyun, but I'm already married to him, Yoon Seol said sincerely. Choi Yoon Seol is my wife. We wanted to let you know because you're her friend. We've been keeping it secret on campus, but I trust you to keep it to yourself, Junyoung added. Let's go, Yoon Seol. He'll need some time to process this, Junyoung said, pulling her away. Seokhyun stood there stunned. They're married? Since when? Memories of all the incidents replayed in his mind. Clutching his head, he thought, how did I not realize it sooner? How could I ignore all the signs? At Sujin's place, she shouted in frustration, Mr. An, why hasn't your person secured me an internship at TJ Corp yet? Please calm down, Miss Sujin. It will happen soon, Mr. An replied cautiously. We've also received information that Kang Junyoung is getting closer to one of the interns. Her voice rose with irritation. How can I stay calm after hearing something like that? Mr. An remained composed. The person will deliver good news soon, I assure you, miss. You can trust him. He's the same source who informed us about his trip to Guam. Sujin paused, then nodded. All right, Since he provided accurate information before, I'll trust him for now. Turning sharply, she added with a smirk, Mr. An, make sure to give him a gift. We need him to remain loyal. No, Sujin. Always get what I want. 2 days later, at a cafe, Gyeon-un asked, Seok-hyun confessed to you? Yesterday, he asked me about your secret marriage but didn't say anything about his feelings for you. Yeah, I still can't believe it, Yoon Seol sighed. But why does he want a serious relationship with you now? Gyeon-un wondered aloud. He said he realized it because of Junyoung, Yoon Seol explained. Does Mr. Kang know? Gyeon-un asked. Yes, in fact, he bluntly told Seok-hyun that we're married, Yoon Seol replied. Oh, so he was there too? Gyeon-un raised an eyebrow. Yes, he's the one who suggested I tell him about our marriage. But Seok-hyun didn't come to the office yesterday. Do you think it affected him? Yoon Seol said, her voice laced with worry. Waving her hand dismissively, Gyeon-un replied, Yoon Seol, it's Seok-hyun. Don't worry about him, he just needs time. You should be worrying about Mr. Kang instead. Why? What's wrong with him? Yoon Seol asked, puzzled. Why do you think he suggested you tell Seok-hyun about the marriage? Gyeon-un asked knowingly. Because he thinks Seok-hyun doesn't see me as just a friend, Yoon Seol replied. Do you really think he cares about Seok-hyun's feelings? Mr. Kang just wanted to make it clear that you're his wife. Your marriage is developing better than I expected, Gyeon-un said with a wide grin. That night, at the Kang house, Yoon Seol lay on her bed staring at the unanswered messages she had sent to Seok-hyun. Is he all right? He hasn't replied yet. I'm starting to worry about him, she thought. From behind, Junyoung called out, Aren't you asleep? Startled, she turned to see him. Oh, you're home. No, I'm not asleep yet. Why are you hugging your pillow like that? Are you feeling unwell? He asked, unbuttoning the top of his shirt. It's just... My stomach hurts a little, she replied. He walked over, placing his hand on her forehead. It's a relief you don't have a fever. If you're still uncomfortable tomorrow, don't go to the office, he said with concern. It's fine, it's just that. It's the first day, she replied hesitantly. The first day? He asked, confused. Just get it, she said, embarrassed. Smirking, he replied. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Just let me know if it hurts. Sitting beside her on the bed, he extended his hand. Come here, Yoon Seol, he said gently. She turned to face him, then asked, Junyoung, how did you know about Seok-hyun's feelings? He sighed before answering. It was obvious from his actions. Just think about what he's done for you, and how he treats you. Then, with a teasing grin, he added, Why? Are you regretting this marriage after finding out about his feelings? He did say it would have been fine if you were with me before you accepted him. So tell me honestly, do you want to accept his feelings? Disappointed, she turned away. If I say yes, will you let me? She asked softly. Of course not, Choi Yoon Seol, he replied firmly. She tightened her grip on the pillow. You already know how I feel about you, but the way you always question it makes me sad, she admitted. Junyoung raised his hand, gently caressing her face. Gracing her lips with his fingers, he said, Then tell me how you feel now, Choi Yoon Seol. Blushing, she hesitated for a moment before grabbing his hand. Finally, she confessed, I love you. I love you, Kang Junyoung. I really love you, and it's only you. Then can you show me your feelings? He asked, holding her face tenderly with both hands. Without hesitation, she grabbed his collar, pulling him close, and kissed him deeply. He reciprocated, wrapping his hand around the back of her head, pulling her even closer, as their affection poured out in that tender moment. The next day at the office, Yoon Seol noticed that Seok-hyun had finally come back. Seok-hyun, are you okay? She asked, but he didn't respond. You don't want to talk to me? Seok-hyun, we're friends, she added, her voice softer. But he still didn't reply. He simply walked to his desk and sat down, completely ignoring her. Yoon Seol sighed, unsure of how to comfort him. Later, they crossed paths near the elevator. She tried to call out to him again, but he ignored her, walking right past. Frustrated, she grabbed his hand and pulled him to the side for a private conversation. Seok-hyun, just listen to me, she said earnestly. I know I should have told you earlier, but that doesn't mean we're not friends. I just wanted to keep my marriage a secret. It all happened so quickly. What happened, Yoon Seol? How did you two get married? Did you know each other before? He asked, his voice tense. Remember, Seok-hyun, when I asked you to marry me? It was because my grandfather was sick. You rejected the idea, and then Junyoung appeared, she explained. Oh, so now you're calling him by his name, he said, crossing his arms. And the two of you just got married so easily? Yes, she replied calmly. Our families are close, and we had the same goals. You should have told me the real reason from the start, he said angrily. Like you said, we're very young. Even if you had agreed, our families might have had issues. This marriage happened because of Kang Junyoung, she stated firmly. So-kyun, I'm sorry I hid this from you, she added clearly, but I only see you as a friend. He stared at her for a moment before replying, Okay, even if we're just friends, I'll wait for you, Yoon Seol. If you ever stop loving him, just come to me, he said with determination. Yoon Seol sighed deeply and said, So-kyun, we'll always be friends, and you don't have to wait for me. With that, she turned and left. The next day at TJ Corp, So-kyun arrived with a new hairstyle, exuding fresh charm and energy. Greeting everyone cheerfully, he quickly became the center of attention. So-kyun, with this new look, you seem more mature, complimented Miss Yoon. Thank you, he replied, flashing a smile. Meanwhile, Yoon Seol watched him from a distance, thinking, It's a relief that So-kyun is back to his usual self. Miss Yoon, you look different today as well, So-kyun said. Really? She asked, surprised. Yes, that new bag really suits you, So-kyun complimented her. Oh, thank you, Miss Yoon replied, smiling. Just then, Yoon Seol received a call from Junyoung. After a brief conversation, she got up to leave. Miss Yoon asked curiously, Yoon Seol, was that Mr. Kang? Yes, she replied. He asked me to send hot coffee to his office. Okay, then hurry up, Miss Yoon said. As Yoon Seol left, Miss Yoon glanced at her, a thoughtful expression crossing her face, as if she sensed something unusual between Yoon Seol and Mr. Kang. At the cafeteria, So-kyun ordered 2 coffees. Soon, Secretary Yoon arrived to place her order and insisted on paying for him. Thank you, So-kyun said politely. Seeing the 2 cups, Yoon asked, Who's the other coffee for? So-kyun replied truthfully, It's for Yoon Seol. She likes to have coffee after lunch. Yoon raised an eyebrow. Oh, I see. I remember you and Choi Yoon Seol were called to Mr. Kang's office on your first day. That's not something he usually does for interns. Are you 2 related to him in some way? No, it's nothing like that. We're his students. And since our group scored the highest, we were selected to intern at Sovov. So-kyun explained casually. Yoon nodded but added, Oh, I thought either you or Choi Yoon Seol might have a personal connection to him. So-kyun thought back to how Yoon Seol was indeed connected to Junyoung, but he smiled and said, I wish I were related to him. They continued chatting, and Yoon mentioned how she initially worked as the CEO's secretary but transitioned to working for Mr. Kang after Sov and TJ Corp merged. Meanwhile, as Yoon Seol was arranging papers, her phone buzzed. It was a call from Junyoung. Come down to the parking lot, he said. I told you, don't flirt at work, she complained. Who's flirting? I just called to have you pick up some snacks. What were you thinking, Yoon Seol? He asked teasingly. Her cheeks turned red, unsure of how to respond. Fine, I'm coming, she said quickly and hung up. When she reached the car, she asked through the window, Where is it? In the back, he replied. She grabbed the box and asked, Are you apologizing with this for what happened yesterday with So-kyun? Junyoung handed her another box. It's nothing like that. This one's for you. Open it, he said. She opened the box, and her face lit up. Oh, it's so pretty. Did you buy this for me? She asked excitedly. It's Minjin's suggestion. He's great at finding good spots, Junyoung said nonchalantly. So this is what you meant when you said men speak through actions, right? She asked, her eyes sparkling. When did I ever say that? He teased. You said it yourself. How can you forget? She said, puffing her cheeks. Okay then, she pressed. Tell me honestly. Did you do this because you missed me? You've got it wrong, Choi Yoon Seol. I'm just fulfilling my duties as a husband, he replied with a chuckle. Let's go upstairs now, he added, stepping out of the car. As they walked, she asked again, Junyoung, you really don't want to admit it, do you? Walking ahead, he threw her own words back at her. I think it's better if we don't flirt at work. She huffed, thinking, I'm not the one flirting. He's the one teasing me. When they reached the office, her eyes widened. Sujin stood there. Hi, Junyoung. It's been a while, Sujin greeted warmly. Hi, Sujin. What brings you here? Junyoung asked, confused. My dad couldn't attend the meeting, so I came on his behalf, she replied, then turned to Yoon Seol. Oh, hi, Yoon Seol. I forgot you were interning here. Where are the others? Her eyes drifted to the box in Yoon Seol's hands. Oh, is that from the popular store? Junyoung must have bought it for me, Sujin said, shamelessly grinning. Mr. An must have told you about my visit, she added smugly. After Sujin left with Junyoung, Yoon Seol stood still, watching their backs in silence. Moments later, Mr. An approached Yoon Seol and said, Miss, please bring those boxes to the pantry. Later, Mr. An distributed the cakes among the staff. Please help yourselves. This is a gift for Miss Sujin from Mr. Kang, he announced. The staff began praising Sujin. She's so beautiful, and she and Mr. Kang make such a good-looking pair, one of them gushed. Mr. Kang is really romantic to bring such a lovely gift for Miss Sujin, another chimed in. Yoon Seol listened silently, her heart sinking at their comments. At the end of the day, So-kyun approached her. Are you heading home, or are you waiting for Mr. Kang? He asked. He seems busy, she replied. But didn't his meeting end a while ago? He questioned. Maybe he has other work, she said. Okay then, I'll head out first, Seok-hyun said and left. Yoon Seol prepared to leave as well. As she glanced at Jun-young's office, she wondered, is he still working? Why hasn't he sent me any message? A sudden thought crossed her mind. Is he still with Soojin? The elevator doors opened, and Jun-young stood there, looking effortlessly dashing. Weren't you still in the office? She asked. He said nothing, pulling her into the elevator. Intertwining their fingers, he held her hand tightly. What are you doing? What if someone sees us? She asked, glaring at him. I don't care. They'll just think we're dating, he replied indifferently. Were you looking for me? He asked. I was just curious since I didn't see you anywhere, she replied. Or did you think I was with Soojin? He asked, his tone teasing. Figure it out yourself, she snapped, running toward the car. Doesn't he already know how I feel? She thought. At the car, she noticed another cake box. Oh, there's one more. I didn't get to taste it earlier, she said. How did it feel when everyone ate your cake? He asked. I felt like something was taken from me, she admitted honestly. Then eat this one now, so it won't be taken, he said. She opened the box and smiled when she saw her name labeled on the cake. Did you just buy this? She asked. I had to label it so it wouldn't get taken, he replied. She grinned. I need to show this to Mom and Dad, she said seriously. Jun-young frowned. There's no need. Eat it now or I'll eat it, he warned, trying to grab it from her. Dodging him, she said. You said it's for me, so I'll eat it. She took a bite, and Jun-young leaned closer, brushing his thumb against the corner of her lips. Since you're eating yours, I'll have mine, he murmured before capturing her lips in a kiss to taste the cake himself. The next day, as Yoon Seol entered the office, she noticed the way people were acting differently around her. They whispered among themselves, occasionally glancing in her direction. Curious, she approached Seok-hyun. Seok-hyun, did something happen, and does it have anything to do with me? She asked. He hesitated before leaning in. I heard something from Senior Youngmi, he said, his tone cautious. Apparently, Mr. An said a few things yesterday while handing out the cake, he added, reluctant to continue. Seok-hyun, just tell me, it's okay, she urged him. He finally spoke. He said that you're coming between Soojin and Mr. Kang, and, something about you flirting with Mr. Kang because he's wealthy, he said, his words heavy. Yoon Seol listened quietly, her expression frozen. After a moment, she composed herself and replied, So now I'm the bad woman stealing a man from a good woman, she asked dryly, pointing at herself. Yeah, something like that, Seok-hyun admitted, quickly adding. But you don't need to worry. Of course not, she replied firmly. Anyway, our internship ends next week, and I don't want any drama before that. Seok-hyun hesitated for a moment before asking, But Yoon Seol, are you sure there's nothing between them? They do seem close. And if Soojin doesn't know about your marriage, her reaction kind of makes sense. Yoon Seol's eyes widened at his words, caught off guard. As they were talking, Miss Yoon called out, Hello, Miss Soojin. Soojin entered the office, elegantly dressed, her presence commanding attention. Hello, everyone. Good morning, she greeted warmly. Yoon Seol watched Soojin, her thoughts racing. Soojin and Jun-young? But she quickly dismissed the idea. No, I'm sure Jun-young wouldn't hide anything from me. Soojin approached Seok-hyun and Yoon Seol enthusiastically. I wish I had joined your group, she said, feigning sadness. Then, grabbing Yoon Seol's hand, she announced loudly, Yoon Seol is my close friend. When Jun-young and I went to Guam for vacation, she was also there. Turning to everyone, she added, Thank you all for taking care of my dear friend. Bowing politely, Secretary Yoon approached them. Miss Soojin, the meeting room is ready. You can wait for Mr. Kang there, she informed her. Soojin nodded and turned to Mr. An. Mr. An, I need my favorite macchiato, she ordered firmly. Mr. An turned to Yoon Seol. Intern, could you bring it, please? He asked curtly. Okay, I'll check the downstairs cafe to see if they have it, Yoon Seol replied. But Mr. An stopped her. Miss Soojin only likes macchiato from her favorite cafe, he said with a tone of finality. Before Yoon Seol could respond, Seok-hyun raised his hand. Oh, I know Soojin's favorite cafe. I'll bring it, he offered cheerfully. Soojin glanced at Mr. An disapprovingly. Mr. An, even though they're interns, they're my friends. You can't treat them like that, she scolded. Mr. An quickly bowed. My apologies, Miss Soojin. Before anyone could leave to fetch the coffee, Minjin entered with a cup in hand. Here's your favorite macchiato, Soojin, he said, handing it to Soojin. As she left, Mr. An remarked, It must have been Director Kang who told Mr. Minjin to bring it since Miss Soojin likes it. Shortly after, Secretary Yoon approached Jun-young. Mr. Kang, Miss Soojin is here, she said. Jun-young sighed. Oh, her father isn't attending today either? All right, I'll be there, he said, standing up. As he walked past the office corridors, he overheard a conversation. Poor Soojin thinks of Yoon Seol as her close friend. But Yoon Seol is trying to take Soojin's partner. She can't seem to live without a man, always clinging to Seokhyun, one voice whispered. Jin-young clenched his fists, loosening his tie to contain his anger. Does Yoon Seol know about these rumors? Is she all right? He wondered. His thoughts raced as he passed the meeting room where Soojin waited. He knew this was all orchestrated by Soojin. He glanced inside, his mind searching for a solution to this growing problem. Meanwhile, outside, Mr. An announced, Mr. Kang has organized a dinner for Miss Soojin, and all staff are invited. Turning to Yoon Seol and Seokhyun, he added arrogantly, you two can treat it as your farewell dinner since your internship is nearing its end. After he left, Seokhyun turned to Yoon Seol. You don't need to go if you're uncomfortable, he said with concern. It's fine. Besides, if I don't go, it will only make the rumors worse, she replied with a worried tone. All right, but let me know if you feel uncomfortable, okay? He assured her. At the dinner, everyone gathered around the table. Mr. An stood up to make an announcement. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Director Kang, for organizing this dinner at Miss Soojin's favorite restaurant, he said, raising his glass for a toast. As everyone clinked glasses, Youngmi noticed Yoon Seol wasn't drinking. Why aren't you drinking, Yoon Seol? She asked. Before Yoon Seol could respond, Junyoung stepped in, taking her glass. I'll drink on her behalf, he said. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to him. Breaking the silence, Junyoung continued. Choi Yoon Seol can't drink, so I'll take this for her. He raised the glass to his lips and drank, his actions shocking everyone. Soojin's face turned pale, unable to hide her disbelief. Mr. An stood up abruptly. Mr. Kang, aren't you and Miss Soojin? But Junyoung interrupted him sharply. It seems there's been a misunderstanding, he said firmly, setting down the empty glass. I've recently heard some rumors, and I want to clarify that there's nothing between me and Soojin. I don't have anything to do with her. Soojin's face grew even paler at his words. Junyoung continued, his tone softening as he looked at Yoon Seol. In fact, I'm already in love with Choi Yoon Seol. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Soojin's anger flared as she noticed everyone staring and whispering about her. Seokhyun, noticing the growing tension and Yoon Seol's discomfort, quickly acted. He grabbed her hand and declared loudly, Unfortunately, Mr. Kang's feelings are unrequited because Yoon Seol and I are dating. Yoon Seol's and Junyoung's faces froze in shock. What is this guy doing? Yoon Seol thought, utterly baffled. Sorry, Mr. Kang, Seokhyun added smugly. You were just a little too late. The room buzzed with chatter about the unexpected revelation. After dinner, Yoon Seol turned to Seokhyun. Even though I was surprised, thank you for helping me out there, she said sincerely. No problem. I just wanted to make sure you were okay, he replied. From a distance, Junyoung watched them, his expression unreadable. Seokhyun pointed at him and called out, Mr. Kang, if this gossip happens again, I'll take Yoon Seol from you. I haven't given up yet. Junyoung remained silent. Meanwhile, Soojin, humiliated, left the dinner early and retreated to a private facility to vent her anger. Miss Soojin, the reporter has arrived, someone informed her. Why a reporter? Did something happen? A young man asked, noticing her agitated state. Raising her wineglass with a smirk, she replied, Because I want to create a story. The man frowned. It's strange. Usually you call them to remove stories. This time, I need a scandal, Soojin said coldly, her eyes gleaming with malice. And Soojin's first scandal will be a wedding scandal. The next morning at the Kang house, Junyoung and Yoon Seol woke up in each other's embrace. As Yoon Seol opened her eyes and saw Junyoung still beside her, she asked, Are you going to work out today? Junyoung smirked and teased. I'd like to, but my arm hurts because of you. Taking his words seriously, she sat up, concerned. Oh no, I'm sorry, where does it hurt? She asked, checking his arm. Realizing he was just teasing, she narrowed her eyes. You're messing with me again, she said, increasing the pressure of his arms. Well, what can I do? My wife is too kind, he said with a grin. He got up and grabbed her hand. Come with me. I'll show you my workout place. As they walked together, Yoon Seol hesitated before saying, Actually, I'm really worried about the gossip. What if Soojin finds out about our marriage? Junyoung gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. She's just jealous because she didn't get the internship at Seovi. That gossip is already fading. You don't need to worry. When they reached the gym door, Yoon Seol voiced another concern. I didn't know Soojin was so obsessed with you. I don't care, Junyoung replied firmly. As Yoon Seol stepped inside, her eyes widened at the sight of the well-equipped gym. Do you work out here every day? She asked. Not every day. Sometimes I go outside, he replied, starting his workout routine. Watching him, Yoon Seol muttered, I've been living here for months, and you're only showing me this now. You never asked. Junyoung replied matter-of-factly. So I have to ask first now? She retorted, raising an eyebrow. Then, in a teasing tone, she added, Do you work out to maintain your body? But you never look in the mirror, so are you trying to impress someone else? Stopping his treadmill, he looked at her and said, "Enough questions. You should work out too," pulling her onto the machine. As she started walking, she said, "But Junyoung, don't you think we still don't know a lot about each other? Isn't there anything you want to know about me?" "Well, I started working out in high school. Over time, it became a habit, and now I enjoy it," he said, brushing off her teasing. "So, do I have to compete with your workouts now?" "You already said you liked me yesterday," she teased with a smirk. Junyoung laughed heartily. "So, you remember that?" It was the first time she had seen him laugh so brightly. She turned her back to him. "Fine. If you're embarrassed to admit it, I won't look," she teased. "I like you, Choi Yoon Seol," he said suddenly, making her freeze in surprise. Later, they decided to visit Yoon Seol's grandfather, bringing Junseo, Junyoung's younger brother, along since her internship had ended. Mrs. Kang, relieved that the internship was over, bid them farewell, telling them to take care. Watching them leave, she smiled, glad that Yoon Seol's presence had made Junyoung more connected to the family. During the journey, Yoon Seol and Junseo sat in the back, chatting cheerfully. Junyoung glanced at them, his expression slightly sour. When they stopped, Yoon Seol asked, "Are you tired?" "No, I just need to check the car," Junyoung replied curtly. "Okay, we'll grab some snacks. Do you need anything?" she asked. "No," he answered firmly. As they returned, Yoon Seol asked, "Is the car okay?" "The car's fine. I think I'm the one who's not okay," Junyoung replied, lowering his head. He then opened the front passenger door. Junseo is old enough to sit alone in the back. "You sit here," he said, pushing Yoon Seol into the front seat. Back on the road, Yoon Seol handed Junyoung his coffee while he drove, and his mood visibly improved. When they arrived at her grandfather's house, Yoon Seol rushed to hug him. "I missed you, Grandpa. I'm sorry it took me so long to visit." Her grandfather hugged her tightly before greeting the Kang brothers warmly. As Yoon Seol and Junseo walked inside, her grandfather turned to Junyoung. "Let's have a chat," he said. Outside the house, he asked, "Did your father ever tell you about our family connection?" "Just that without your help we wouldn't be where we are today," Junyoung replied truthfully. "So, he never told you what almost destroyed your family business?" her grandfather asked. Junyoung frowned. "I don't understand." "What do you mean?" Her grandfather began explaining. "Years ago, someone tried to bring down our construction business. It was a loan shark disguised as a businessman, No Youngtae." "You mean the father of No Jingyu?" Junyoung asked, surprised. "You know him?" the older man asked. "I've only heard the name. Yoon Seol, and I also know his granddaughter, No Sujin. She's in the same department as Yoon Seol, and my parents warned me to be careful around the No family," Junyoung explained. Her grandfather's face grew serious. "Junyoung, Yoon Seol is my granddaughter. I raised her without telling her anything about my real job or the threats to our family. Please, keep this secret from her until I'm gone. I don't know what they might do if they find out who she is. My time isn't long, and I need you to protect her." Junyoung nodded, his expression grave. "I understand, Grandpa. I'll protect her." The next morning, everyone went to Jeoje Island with Yoon Seol's uncle. Yoon Seol and Junseo were excited to take pictures, and Yoon Seol handed her phone to Junyoung. "Can you take a picture of us?" she asked, as she and Junseo struck playful poses together. Junyoung snapped a few shots, and when he showed them the pictures, Yoon Seol beamed. "Oh, these turned out so good. You're really good at taking pictures." Junseo grinned and suggested, "Brother, why don't you and Yoon Seol take one together? I'll handle the camera this time." As they stood together, Junseo positioned the camera to find the perfect angle. Suddenly, Yoon Seol tugged on Junyoung's shirt and planted an affectionate kiss on his cheek, making him freeze in surprise. Junseo turned red with embarrassment but managed to capture a few good shots. Next, Yoon Seol suggested, "Why don't you two brothers take a picture together now? I'll be the photographer this time." The brothers stood side by side, but their posture seemed stiff. "Why do you both look so awkward?" "Junyoung, put your arm around Junseo's shoulder," Yoon Seol directed. Finally, Junyoung wrapped his arm around Junseo, and Yoon Seol captured a perfect shot. Later, as they walked, Junseo kept looking at the picture on the phone. "It's been a long time since I had a picture with my brother. Thank you," he said to Yoon Seol with a smile. Noticing the sentiment in his voice, she asked, "I just realized you two don't seem very close. Why is that?" Junseo hesitated. "Maybe because of the age gap, or because he's always busy with work. But don't tell him I said that, okay?" he said, gesturing for her to keep quiet. "Tell me what?" Junyoung's voice came from behind them as he approached. "Oh, it's nothing," Yoon Seol quickly replied, trying to steer the topic away. Junyoung wrapped his arm around her shoulder and said, "You should rest for a while. I'll keep Junseo company." As Yoon Seol left, Junyoung turned to Junseo and asked, "So, have you caught anything?" "Not yet," Junseo admitted. "Let me help you then," Junyoung offered. After some effort and teamwork, Junseo finally caught a small fish. His face lit up with joy, and his excitement was infectious. As the sun began to set, Yoon Seol returned. The three of them sat together, watching the sunset. "It's been so long since I last saw a sunset here," Yoon Seol said softly. "It's still as beautiful as ever." Junyoung turned his gaze to her, unable to take his eyes off her face. "Junseo, turn around," he suddenly said, making Junseo shift his attention elsewhere. Leaning closer to Yoon Seol, their faces only inches apart, he pressed his lips to hers, sharing a tender sunset kiss on the island. That evening during dinner, Junyoung carefully placed food on Yoon Seol's plate. Her aunt, noticing his attentiveness, expressed her delight. "We're not worried about Yoon Seol anymore. Her husband is so caring." Her grandfather nodded in agreement. "I'm very grateful she married Junyoung. He has the same qualities as his father and grandfather, and that gives me peace of mind." After dinner, Junseo went to bed, while Yoon Seol's uncle called everyone to the living room at her grandfather's request. Yoon Seol felt a pang of nervousness, sensing what the conversation would be about. As everyone gathered, her grandfather began to speak. "Yoon Seol, I've been keeping something from you. I told your uncle and aunt not to say anything either. Last year, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer," he said, his voice heavy. Tears streamed down Yoon Seol's face as she clung to him. "I'm sorry, Grandpa. I already knew. I overheard it earlier but pretended not to know," she admitted, her voice breaking. Her grandfather held her tightly. "It's okay, my child. I know you were worried about me." The atmosphere in the room grew heavy, and tears formed in everyone's eyes. "Grandpa, you don't have to worry about me. Just take care of yourself," Yoon Seol said, her voice trembling. Her grandfather smiled sadly. "Yoon Seol, I've lived a long life. I've accepted this with open arms. And now, with Junyoung and his family as your new family, I can rest easy." Sobbing softly, he added, "I am not afraid anymore." As night deepened, Yoon Seol lay in bed, her quiet sobs breaking the silence. Junyoung noticed and turned toward her. "Yoon Seol, are you still awake?" he asked softly. "I'm sorry I woke you," she said, wiping her tears, "but I can't stop crying." He wrapped his arms around her, gently wiping away her tears. "Are you crying about Grandpa? Don't worry, he'll be okay," he assured her. "I knew about it before, but when he said it today, it felt real." "And now, I feel so helpless, Junyoung," she said, her voice trembling. He stroked the back of her head comfortingly. "Yoon Seol, you've already done so much. You've made him happy just by being here. Cry as much as you need tonight, but tomorrow, focus on cherishing every moment with him. Build beautiful memories together." The next morning, Yoon Seol went to her grandpa's room, where he was reading the newspaper. "Good morning, Grandpa. Have you had breakfast? Did you take your medicine?" she asked. Her aunt's voice rang out from the side. "Yoon Seol, you know how stubborn he is when it comes to taking his medicine." Sitting beside him, Yoon Seol crossed her hand. "Grandpa, you must take your medicine on time. I'll make sure of it while I'm here," she said firmly. Junyoung soon entered the room. "Good morning, Grandpa," he greeted warmly. "Good morning, Junyoung. I heard you're heading back to the city today," Grandpa said. "Yes, Grandpa. I have something to attend to tomorrow, and Junseo's school is starting," Junyoung explained. "Then, Yoon Seol, spend some time with your husband before he leaves," Grandpa suggested. "Okay, Grandpa. But you must take care of yourself," she said, her tone filled with care. As they left, Junyoung glanced at her. "Are you feeling better now?" he asked. "Yes, thanks to you," she replied, clinging to his arm. "Would you like to go out before I leave?" he suggested. "Oh, you mean like a date?" she teased. "Yeah, something like that," he said with a smile. "You're right, it's been a while since we spent time together. But I don't think now is the right time," she said hesitantly. "It's okay, we can go another time," Junyoung said, trying to hide his disappointment. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. "How about we go to the supermarket?" she suggested excitedly. "The supermarket?" Junyoung repeated, confused. Later, at the supermarket, Junyoung pushed the cart while Yoon Seol browsed. "So, what are you going to cook for lunch?" he asked. "Actually, I'm not very good at cooking," she admitted, looking embarrassed. "But I'll learn if you tell me what you like." "So what do you like?" she asked, turning to him. He answered with a mischievous smile. "What do I like? I like you." Her eyes widened, and she froze at his sudden confession. He leaned in and placed a soft kiss on her cheek. "I like you, Yoon Seol," he repeated. People cast scrutinizing glances their way, but they paid no attention, lost in the warmth of each other's embrace. Back at the house, Junyoung and Junseo prepared to leave. Everyone stood outside to bid them farewell. "Let me know once you've reached home," Yoon Seol called out. As they drove away, her grandpa turned to her. "You should have gone with your husband, Yoon Seol." "It's fine, Grandpa. I still have plenty of vacation time, and Junyoung doesn't mind, she said, smiling brightly. I'm really happy for you, Grandpa said, his voice filled with satisfaction. Over the next few days, while Junyoung was away, Yoon Seol spent quality time with her grandfather, ensuring he followed his schedule and took his medication. At night, when Yoon Seol had some free time, she decided to call Junyoung to talk about her grandfather's health. Junyoung, are you home? She asked as the call connected. No, I'm still at the office, he replied curtly. Are you with someone? She asked. Yes, he answered simply. Oh, sorry for disturbing you, I just wanted to talk. Are you busy? She asked, her voice soft. Yeah, kind of, he replied. Then I'll call you another time, she said, before hanging up, disappointment creeping into her voice. Communication became difficult while they were apart. Junyoung was always busy with work, making it harder to stay connected. The next morning, Yoon Seol overslept and woke up late. She went to her grandpa's room and knocked. Grandpa, are you awake? She called out, opening the door. Aunt made breakfast, and you need to take your medicine, she said, pulling back the curtains. When there was no response, she turned back and hurried to his bedside. Grandpa, she called out, grabbing his hand. Her eyes froze on him. His hand was cold. Grandpa, she yelled, her voice shaking and desperate. The commotion alerted the rest of the family, and everyone rushed to the room. But it was too late. Her grandfather was gone. At the funeral, Yoon Seol sat in silence, her tears long dried, with Seokhyun and Gyeong-yoon by her side, offering quiet comfort. Yoon Seol, Mr. Kang hasn't arrived yet. Are you sure you informed him? Gyeong-yoon asked, her voice filled with concern. He might still be busy, Yoon Seol replied, lowering her head. Let me call him, Seokhyun suggested, pulling out his phone. But Yoon Seol stopped him, shaking her head. It's fine, Seokhyun. I'll try calling him again. She dialed Junyoung's number. When he picked up, she asked, Where are you? Yoon Seol, I'm sorry I might be late for Grandpa's funeral, Junyoung said from the other side. There's a matter I need to attend to. It's better if you proceed without me. And if you hear any news, please have faith in me. Faith. Was she supposed to have faith in him? Yoon Seol's thoughts are spiraling. But what is there to trust anymore? All I want is to wake up from this nightmare and see Grandpa sitting on the sofa with his usual warm smile. But deep down, she knew this wasn't a dream. It was the harsh reality. Her aunt approached, her tone edged with dissatisfaction. Yoon Seol, where is your husband? You informed him, didn't you? He said he'll be late, Yoon Seol replied quietly. What could possibly be more important than being here for you at a time like this? Her aunt said with a sigh. I thought Mr. Kang was different, but he's just like the others, always putting work first. I'm disappointed. If I'd known earlier, I wouldn't have supported this hasty marriage. She shook her head. Even your grandpa would have been heartbroken to see this. Anyway, I'll attend to the guests. Make sure to call him again. As her aunt walked away, Yoon Seol stared at her phone. She had already called him, but there was still no reply. What could possibly be more important than Grandpa's funeral? Soon, Mr. and Mrs. Kang arrived. Mrs. Kang embraced Yoon Seol, her voice full of sympathy. I'm so sorry we couldn't come immediately, dear. It was so sudden. Be strong, my child. Has Junyoung not arrived yet? Mr. Kang asked. No, not yet, Yoon Seol replied. What is he doing? Mrs. Kang asked, frustrated as she dialed her son's number. Mr. Kang explained. There was some urgent news he needed to handle. It's already been resolved, so he should have been here by now. News? He mentioned something earlier. But why didn't he tell me? Was it really that important? Yoon Seol wondered. It's okay, father. He'll come soon, Yoon Seol assured them, managing a weak smile despite her exhaustion. Sorry, dear. He shouldn't have left you alone like this, Mrs. Kang said, visibly worried. I understand, Mother. Please rest now, Yoon Seol said, trying to console them. As everyone left, her aunt advised her, Get some rest, Yoon Seol. Your uncle and I will handle things. Just then, Junyoung's voice broke through the room. I'm sorry I'm late. He stood at the door, his face filled with remorse. Where have you been, Mr. Kang? Her aunt asked, her dissatisfaction clear. Without answering, Junyoung rushed toward Yoon Seol and pulled her into a tight embrace. I'm so sorry, Yoon Seol. Are you okay? He asked softly. Tears she had tried to hold back now flowed freely. It's too late, Junyoung. Grandpa is gone. Why are you only showing up now? She asked, her voice trembling as she pushed him away. Junyoung fell silent for a moment, then pulled out his phone and showed her a picture. There were rumors, likely started by Sujin. I had to hold a press conference at TJ Corp to shut them down. Her eyes widened. Isn't this from Guam? Yes, he confirmed. I don't know when she took it. That's why I asked you to trust me, he said, pressing a kiss to the back of her hand. I didn't want to burden you with this, especially now. But I'm sorry I left you alone during such a difficult time. I'll stay with you as long as you need. If you need time, then. It's fine, she interrupted, clinging to him and letting her tears flow. A few weeks later, as Yoon Seol and Sokyun strolled down a quiet street, she asked, Sokyun, what do guys like as gifts? Are you planning to give me one? He joked. Anything you pick would be fine. No, I mean for Junyoung, she clarified, a little embarrassed. We're celebrating our 100-day anniversary soon, but I don't know what to get him, she admitted, clearly worried. I think Yongwon is better than me at picking gifts, Sokyun said thoughtfully. Don't you know what Mr. Kang likes? He asked, turning to Yoon Seol, only to see her already peering into the display of a nearby shop. It was a set of dumbbells. Dumbbells as a gift? He asked, surprised. Yes, he likes to work out, she replied confidently. Then what's stopping you? He asked, watching her deliberation. This dinner feels awkward, she admitted, her voice tinged with worry. Since Grandpa passed, it feels like we've been postponing things. It's okay, Yoon Seol, Sokyun reassured her. I think both Grandpa and Mr. Kang wouldn't want you to be sad. Don't dwell on it too much. And besides, you know him better than anyone. All men show their feelings through actions, he added with a small smile. When they reached the Kang residence, Sokyun said, Yoon Seol, just hand over the gifts to your in-laws and I'll take you to the restaurant. Thank you, Sokyun, she said gratefully. Inside, she handed a bag to Mrs. Kang. What is this? Mrs. Kang asked, curious. Just a few gifts to thank you all for always taking care of me, Yoon Seol replied with a warm smile. Mrs. Kang took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. What's wrong, Mom? Yoon Seol asked, surprised by the sudden gesture. Nothing, Mrs. Kang said softly, her voice filled with emotion. I'm just so grateful to you. Ever since you came, both brothers have grown closer, and Junyoung seems more connected to the family. I'm truly grateful, but... She paused, her tone shifting. I also feel guilty. Why, Mom? You haven't done anything wrong, Yoon Seol replied, concerned. Mrs. Kang hesitated, her gaze lowering. At first, I thought Junyoung didn't truly love you, she admitted. I believed he married you only to repay a debt, your grandfather's and Mr. Choi's. Repay a debt? Yoon Seol's voice wavered, her eyes wide with shock. What do you mean by that, Mom? Later, as they sat down, Yoon Seol turned to Mrs. Kang and asked, Now tell me, what did you mean earlier? Mrs. Kang hesitated, then began, You know, Yoon Seol, that TJ group grew to what it is today because of your grandfather's contributions. But because of that, your parents lost their lives in an accident. Yoon Seol's eyes widened in shock. Mrs. Kang continued. At first, I thought Junyoung married you out of a sense of responsibility for what happened. But now, I can see it's more than that. I see the way he smiles when he's with you. It's genuine. He truly loves you. Yoon Seol's hands trembled at Mrs. Kang's words, but she managed to respond softly. Yes, Mom. We loved each other from the beginning. You have a date with him, right? Should I call the driver for you? Mrs. Kang asked, changing the topic. No need, Mom. My friend is waiting outside, and he'll take me, Yoon Seol replied, bowing slightly before excusing herself. After changing clothes, she exited the house with a slam of the door, startling Sokyun, who was waiting in the car. Sokyun, let's just go, she ordered, her voice tense. Meanwhile, Junyoung sat at the restaurant, glancing at his watch. Half an hour had passed, but there was still no sign of Yoon Seol. He dialed her number, but there was no response. Concerned, he called his mother, who informed him that Yoon Seol had left long ago with a friend. A friend? Who was it? Junyoung asked sharply. It was Sokyun, Mrs. Kang replied. Junyoung's jaw tightened. Did you tell her anything? Mrs. Kang admitted. I might have mentioned that I initially thought you married her out of gratitude. Didn't she know about this before? Mrs. Kang asked. Running a hand through his hair, Junyoung replied, I only found out a few days ago, and Grandpa didn't want her to know because it was tied to her parents' accident. Mrs. Kang sighed. I thought your father might have told you because you spent so much time with him. That's why I only warned you to be careful of the No family. It's okay, Mom, I'll handle it, Junyoung said before ending the call. Earlier, as Sokyun's car approached the restaurant, Yoon Seol didn't get out. Let's go somewhere else, she said, frustration evident in her tone. Do you want to visit your grandpa's house? Sokyun asked, concerned. No, that's too far, she replied, wiping her tears. Yoon Seol, you can tell me what's wrong. I'm your friend, he offered gently. She gripped the door handle. I'm sorry, Sokyun. I just need to be alone, she said, her voice cracking. He reached for her hand. I understand, but let me take you home first, he said firmly. I don't want to go home. I need to figure something out first before going back, she said, her frustration spilling over. Sokyun remained silent for a moment, then sighed and replied, Fine, but I can't leave you alone here. If anything happens, Mr. Kang will have my head. With that, he turned the car around. He drove her to a hotel and booked a room. Why did you bring me here? She asked, her voice filled with confusion. Stay here tonight and take some time to sort out your thoughts. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning, he said, opening the door for her. Thank you, Sokyun. Be careful while driving, she replied, her tone softening as she expressed her gratitude. He looked at her for a moment, concern evident in his eyes, then nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Alone in the room, Yoon Seol clenched her phone tightly and dialed her uncle. "Uncle, can you answer my question honestly?" she began, her grip tightening with nervous energy. "What's the connection between Junyoung's family and my parents' accident?" There was a moment of hesitation on the other end. "Uncle, I'm not a child anymore. Please tell me the truth," she pressed, her voice trembling. Her uncle sighed heavily before responding. "Back in the day, both your grandfather and Mr. Kang were not just close friends but also successful business individuals. Mr. Kang's business was thriving, but he got entangled with some powerful politicians. It created significant trouble for him. Your grandfather stepped in to help, thinking the danger had passed, but those same forces took revenge. On the day of the accident, your parents were driving your grandfather's car when the tragedy occurred. Your grandfather was devastated and kept it hidden to protect you from the same fate. He loved you too much to risk losing you as well." As the call ended, Yoon Seol sat frozen, her thoughts a chaotic mess. Grandpa loved me so much, but I was still a burden to him. Her mind raced with questions. Did Junyoung know all this from the beginning? Was I a burden to him as well? What if he ends up meeting the same fate as my parents and grandfather? The thought made her chest tighten with despair. The door opened, breaking her spiraling thoughts. She turned quickly. "Sokyun?" She called out, but her eyes widened when she saw Junyoung standing there instead. "How did you know I was here?" she asked, surprised. "Sokyun called me and told me," he said, closing the door behind him. His expression was firm yet concerned. "Yoon Seol, don't misunderstand. I know about the conversation you had with my mom," Junyoung began, his voice calm yet firm. "I don't misunderstand," she interrupted, her voice trembling as tears welled up in her eyes. "But now I know the truth. I was a burden to my grandpa, and I don't want to become a burden to you as well," she said, her words breaking as she began to sob. "What do you mean?" "Let's go home and talk," Junyoung said, frowning deeply. She shook her head, stepping back. "From now on, forget about the debt." "I'll let you go," she said, her words causing him to freeze in his tracks. Junyoung quickly stepped forward and grabbed her hand. "Yoon Seol, I didn't marry you out of gratitude," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "But it wasn't out of love either," she interrupted, her tone resolute as she stated the facts. Looking him directly in the eyes, she said, "We married under a contract, and now that Grandpa has passed, the contract has ended. Do you understand, Junyoung?" For a moment, Junyoung stood still, the weight of her words pressing down on him. Finally, he gathered himself, his expression firm. "Why are you bringing up the contract again? That contract was void the moment he began, but Yoon Seol cut him off, her voice resolute. "From the beginning, our meeting was a mistake. This is what's best for both of us. Please, leave," she said, her tone trembling with finality. "Yoon Seol!" Junyoung shouted, frustration breaking through his composed exterior. He gritted his teeth, his voice softening but filled with regret. "That contract. If only I hadn't brought it up. If we had started our relationship differently." Clenching his fists, he looked down. "It doesn't matter now. I can see how worried you are, but you've never been a burden to me, and you never will be," he said firmly. Seeing her unyielding expression, he realized she needed time to calm herself. With a heavy heart, he turned and walked out of the room, knowing that pushing further would only worsen things. Outside, Sokyun was waiting. He stepped forward, his face tense. "Mr. Kang, are you hurting her again? As her husband, how can you not understand her feelings?" he demanded. Junyoung turned slightly, his eyes cold. "I am serious. If this continues, I'll take her away from you," Sokyun warned, his tone resolute. "Just try and see," Junyoung replied, before walking away. The next morning, back at the Kang house, Junyoung returned home. "How was dinner?" Mrs. Kang asked casually. "It was fine, and we decided to stay at a hotel," Junyoung lied, forcing a smile. "Where's Yoon Seol? Didn't she come back with you? Is she misunderstanding something I said?" she asked, her worry evident. "No, Mom. There's nothing like that. She's fine. She's at campus because she has an event there," Junyoung explained smoothly. "That's a relief then," Mrs. Kang said with a small sigh. When he entered the bedroom, he noticed a gift box sitting on the table. Curious, he opened it, and his expression softened. Inside was a set of dumbbells and a note. "Think of me while exercising with these." His grip on the note tightened as her words from the previous night replayed in his mind. Elsewhere, Yoon Seol met up with Gyeong-eun. "You should stay with me until you're ready," Gyeong-eun suggested gently. "Honestly, you should have called me last night. You didn't need to be alone." "Thank you," Yoon Seol said, her gratitude genuine. Just then, Sujin's voice rang out from nearby. Congratulations, Yoon Seol, on your relationship with Seokhyun. I left early that day, so I didn't get a chance to say it, she said with a falsely sweet smile. She sat down beside them, her tone laced with feigned concern. I don't know who started linking me to Junyoung, but it seems you got dragged into this mess as well. I'm so sorry, she said, looking at Yoon Seol with mock sincerity. I was honestly shocked. Then with a sigh, she left for her class. It seems she really doesn't know about your marriage, Gyeongun observed. Yes, but soon none of this will matter, Yoon Seol replied quietly, her gaze downcast. Later, Yoon Seol returned to the Kang house to gather some belongings. Entering the bedroom, she noticed the gift box she had given Junyoung was already opened. Her heart wavered for a moment. Did he like it? She wondered, but quickly pushed the thought aside. It doesn't matter anymore. As she packed her clothes and prepared to leave, Mrs. Kang called out, Yoon Seol, are you back? Startled, she paused. I thought you were at campus, so I didn't prepare lunch, Mrs. Kang added. Realizing Junyoung must have covered for her, Yoon Seol decided to go along with the lie. I still have some project work, Mom. I only came to grab a few things. I'll be staying with a friend tonight to finish it, she explained. Oh, that's why Junyoung said he was going out of the city, Mrs. Kang remarked, catching Yoon Seol off guard. Out of the city, she thought, but quickly composed herself. Yes, it's better for both of us to not get entangled, she thought silently. All right then. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Kang said warmly. Thank you, Mom. I'll be going now, Yoon Seol replied, stepping out of the house. As she walked away, Junyoung's words echoed in her mind. You are never a burden to me, and you never will be. Somewhere in a cafe, a man sat hunched over his laptop, typing away with urgency. His fingers hesitated for a moment when a shadow fell over his screen. Looking up, he saw Minjin standing before him, offering a polite but firm smile. Hello, I'm Minjin from TJ Corp, he introduced himself. The man's expression tensed. Realizing who Minjin was affiliated with, he quickly started shutting down his laptop, preparing to make an escape. But before he could rise from his seat, Minjin casually placed a hand on the table, blocking his way. It would be better if you comply, Minjin said evenly, his tone polite yet laced with warning. The man gritted his teeth, clearly reluctant, but he knew he had no choice. With a resigned sigh, he leaned back in his chair, nodding. Elsewhere, Junyoung lounged in his chair, phone in hand, listening to Minjin's report. His expression remained unreadable as Minjin updated him. I managed to strike a deal with the reporter. We'll have access to all the data related to the No family, Minjin informed him. Junyoung exhaled slightly, tapping his fingers on the desk. Good, keep an eye on everything. Minjin hesitated for a second before asking, By the way, are you still in the country or have you already left for Singapore? I'm still here, Junyoung replied, but I'll be flying out tonight. Minjin's voice carried concern. Isn't that dangerous? Junyoung leaned back, his gaze fixed on the screen in front of him, deep in thought. What Sujin did wasn't much, but it was enough to bother Yoon Seol, and she's capable of doing far worse in the future, he mused. But aside from that, one thing doesn't add up. Why is the No family suddenly being so accommodating toward us? Instead of coming after us, they're forming closer ties. That doesn't match their usual pattern. Minjin pondered for a moment. Maybe because it benefits them. And let's not forget that Sujin has been chasing after you since childhood. That could also be a reason. Junyoung's jaw tightened as the pieces started falling into place. The No family wanted him with Sujin. That's why they were orchestrating situations to push them together. For the first time, I'm actually thankful that Sujin likes me, he said with a dry chuckle. As long as they think there's a chance for us, my family and Yoon Seol are safe, for now. But that won't last forever. I need to find a better way to strike back when the time comes. He turned toward the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. A thought surfaced in his mind. If the No family had planned all this, then Sujin's unexpected arrival in Guam wasn't a coincidence either. Only a handful of people knew about that trip, my family and my team. His expression darkened as realization dawned. If it wasn't my family, then someone from my team must have leaked the information. The puzzle pieces were finally coming together. The next day, Gyeong-eun urged Yoon Seol to reconsider her decision about separating from Junyoung. Are you sure this is what you really want? Have you thought it through? She asked, concern evident in her voice. But Yoon Seol remained firm. At the end of the day, it was just a contract, she replied, her tone resolute. Gyeong-eun sighed. But what about your feelings? Before Yoon Seol could respond, Seokhyun approached from behind, arms crossed. Because her feelings have been hurt too many times, I support her decision, he stated firmly. Gyeong-eun narrowed her eyes at him. Now you're just taking advantage of the situation, she accused. Ignoring their bickering, Yoon Seol walked ahead, lost in thought. After a few steps, she turned back. Gyeong-eun, can I go back to your place first? She asked. Aren't we going to the cafe? Kyung-un asked, surprised. Next time. I'm feeling a little tired today, Yoon Seol replied. Sensing her mood, Kyung-un didn't press further. All right, I'll see you later, she agreed. As she watched Yoon Seol leave, she shot a warning glance at Seok-hyun. You better not make things worse. Yeah, I get it, he muttered, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Later, at a cafe, Kyung-un stood in line, trying to decide on a dessert when she noticed someone placing an order ahead of her. Annoyed, she glanced up only to realize it was Minjin. You're here too? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Minjin smirked. Good food attracts good people. Seeing her indecision, he casually suggested a dessert option. Eventually, they ended up sitting together. As they chatted, Minjin asked, Where's Yoon Seol? I thought you two were always together. She had a lot on her mind, so she decided to head back early, Kyung-un explained. Things between her and Mr. Kang have been difficult. Minjin leaned back. Jun-young buries himself in work whenever something bothers him, but don't think for a second he's not thinking about her. I just hope she rethinks her decision about separating, Kyung-un admitted worriedly. Minjin exhaled. There's not much we can do about it, he said. But trust me, Jun-young isn't the type to give up easily. They continued talking for a while, the conversation shifting to lighter topics. Eventually, as Kyung-un checked her phone, preparing to leave, Minjin suddenly spoke up. Kyung-un, he called, his tone casual yet direct. She looked up. May I ask for your number? He asked, flashing a confident smile. I might have a few more good restaurant recommendations for you. Kyung-un's eyes widened slightly at his unexpected request. For a moment, she hesitated, but then she nodded, exchanging numbers with him. At home, Yoon Seol sat staring at her phone, unconsciously waiting for a call or message. Her mind drifted down memory lane, recalling all the moments she had shared with Jun-young. The silence without him felt too vast, an emptiness she wasn't ready to acknowledge. But she reassured herself. Soon, she would learn to be fine without him. Meanwhile, in Singapore, Jun-young found himself doing the same, staring at his phone, lost in thought. Countless questions ran through his mind. Was she doing okay? Did she miss him, even a little? How much longer would she stay away? But then the negative thoughts crept in. Was this truly the end for them? Had she already decided to let go? A few days later, at the campus, Yoon Seol and Seok-hyun walked side by side. The chill in the air made Seok-hyun shiver in his thin clothes, but what really caught his attention was the lingering sadness in Yoon Seol's eyes. You're still staying at Kyung-un's place. Is that really okay? He asked, breaking the silence. She turned to him and nodded. Yes, Kyung-un is fine with it. He sighed. I'm not talking about Kyung-un. I mean, Mr. Kang. It's been a week since you left. Are you really going to part ways with him? She remained silent for a moment before replying. Does it matter? Weren't you the one supporting me a few days ago? She asked, looking down. He studied her carefully, concern flickering in his gaze. Then he spoke. Yoon Seol, this might not be the right time, but does this mean I have another chance? She flinched at his words, then quickly scolded him. No, I'm not ready to consider anything right now. Seok-hyun chuckled softly, then glanced behind her. All this time, you were missing him, weren't you? Startled, she looked at him in shock. Be honest with yourself, Yoon Seol, he continued, his voice gentle, and tell him that directly. Following his gaze, she turned around, only to find Kang Jun-young standing there, his eyes filled with nothing but affection. Seok-hyun gave her a knowing smile before giving her a firm push. Now go reconcile with him. She stumbled forward, unprepared for the sudden shove, but before she could fall, Jun-young caught her, pulling her into his arms. Forgive me, Choi Yoon Seol, he murmured, holding her close. I couldn't wait for you to come to me. Cupping her face gently, he gazed into her eyes. I missed you, Yoon Seol, he admitted, his voice full of longing. But before she could respond, a sharp voice interrupted them. What do you two think you're doing? Sujin was standing there, her face flushed red with anger. Jun-young and Yoon Seol ignored Sujin, but she wasn't ready to back down. Grabbing Yoon Seol's wrist, she snapped. Are you even listening to me? Annoyed, Yoon Seol yanked her hand away. You should be the one to stop, Sujin. You act like Jun-young belongs to you. Do you really think I don't know who started all those rumors in the office? Her voice was firm, her frustration evident, leaving everyone around them shocked. Sujin's face twisted in anger. How dare you? First Seok-hyun, and now Jun-young. Can't you survive without a man? Losing her composure, she lunged at Yoon Seol, her hands raised to strike. But before she could reach her, Jun-young swiftly stepped in, shielding Yoon Seol behind him. His gaze turned cold as he looked over his shoulder. No, Sujin, dare to lay a hand on my wife, and you will regret it. Sujin froze, her breath hitching. Wife? What are you talking about? She asked, her voice shaking. Junyoung was annoyed. Sujin, I think we're all adults here. Do I really need to explain what a wife is? His words dripped with sarcasm. The murmurs around them grew louder. Look around you, he added coolly. Sujin turned her head, only now realizing the number of students and staff gathered, watching the scene unfold with their phones out, recording everything. Panicked, she clenched her fists and shouted, "See everyone? Yoon Seol, who was supposedly dating Sokyun, is now shamelessly flirting with Junyoung." But instead of siding with her, the crowd whispered among themselves. Everyone knew that Sokyun had a playful reputation, and neither he nor Yoon Seol had ever confirmed any romantic involvement. As a result, all fingers pointed at Sujin, exposing her as the source of the rumors. To make matters worse, several people had recorded the entire incident, capturing every word and action. Meanwhile, at No Corporation, Mr. An entered the office, his expression tense as he handed a tablet to Sujin's father. "Sir, you need to see this." The older man glanced at the screen. It was a news article, scandalous photos of Sujin with several men. His expression darkened. "Where is she?" he asked, voice laced with irritation. Before Mr. An could respond, Sujin barged in. "Father, you have to help me," she demanded, her voice desperate. Her father handed the tablet to her. "Have you seen the news?" he asked coldly. Confused, Sujin grabbed the device from Mr. An, her eyes scanning the headlines. The moment she processed the images, her face turned pale. "What is this reporter doing? And why is everything going wrong today?" she shouted, her frustration boiling over. Her father narrowed his eyes. "What else happened?" Still shaken, Sujin clenched her fists. "Father, do you know that Kang Junyoung is married?" she blurted out, his brows furrowed. "I haven't heard anything about that. And if he did marry, it would have been to someone from a powerful family. This must be another baseless rumor." "No, Father, it's not a rumor. He said it himself today in front of everyone. He's married to Choi Yoon Seol," Sujin yelled, still unable to believe it. Mr. An's head snapped up. "Choi Yoon Seol? The intern?" he asked, recalling her name. "Who else?" Sujin snapped. "Your people are useless. How did no one find out about this before?" Mr. An straightened, his expression unreadable. "If my men weren't aware, that means it was a secret marriage. Kang Junyoung must have deliberately hidden it." As he spoke, his tablet suddenly lit up with a new notification. His eyes widened at what he saw. Sujin noticed his reaction and grabbed the tablet. Her stomach dropped as she saw the video playing. A clear recording of her attacking Yoon Seol, Junyoung stepping in, and his public declaration of love for his wife. Her blood ran cold. In a fit of rage, she threw the tablet across the room. "This can't be happening!" she screamed. Her father, however, remained eerily calm as he stood up from his chair. "All right, I will talk to Junyoung myself. He will have no choice but to choose you." His voice was laced with finality, his gaze sharp. "And if he refuses, he'll regret it." Turning to Mr. An, he ordered, "Find out everything there is to know about Choi Yoon Seol. I want to know exactly who she is, and why she thinks she can take what belongs to my daughter." At the Kang house, Junyoung and Yoon Seol were lost in each other's embrace, their long-awaited kiss deepening with every passing second. As he pulled away, a soft smile curved his lips as he wrapped his arms around her. "Yoon Seol, I saw how you handled Sujin today. You must have been holding back for a long time," he murmured. "Your grandpa once told me that when you were a child, you had a quick temper and often got into fights." She buried her face in his chest. "Yeah, that was true, but I haven't acted recklessly in a long time. It's just, when it comes to you, I can't seem to hold back," she admitted. His hold on her tightened as she continued, worry creeping into her voice. "But now that everything is out in the open, what will happen to you, Junyoung? I'm afraid of what they might do." "Don't worry," he reassured her. "I've already taken precautions. And as for the contract..." He folded his arms and paused for a moment before cupping her face. "We've already broken so many of its rules that it's meaningless now." Without hesitation, he pulled out the contract and tore it into pieces, letting them scatter to the floor. Holding her close, he whispered against her hair, "Never leave me again, Yoon Seol. I love you." Neither of them knew how much time had passed as they lay together, wrapped in each other's warmth. After a while, Yoon Seol called out, "Junyoung, what about your position as a lecturer at my campus? What's going to happen now?" He remained calm. "Don't worry, we'll wait for their decision. Either way, I've already made all the necessary preparations," he replied. She sat up slightly, concern evident on her face. "What do you mean? Now that I know about Sujin's family's involvement in my family's past, I need to know everything. As your wife, I'm worried about you. I don't want anything to happen to you." Junyoung studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, instead of answering, he leaned in and kissed her, his lips conveying the gratitude and love he felt for her unwavering concern. As they parted, she searched his face. "Did you know about this from the beginning?" she asked. He leaned back against the headboard, his eyes distant with thought. "No. I only found out when we visited your grandpa earlier this year. he warned me to stay away from the No family. Sujin's family? She exclaimed. Yes. After that, I investigated everything, their business connections, past dealings, and any possible threats. I made sure to secure my family's safety before taking any further steps, he explained. Before, she had thought Sujin's obsession with Junyoung was just that, an obsession. But now, it was clear that there was something much bigger at play. Reaching out, she grasped his hand firmly. Junyoung, you have to be careful. What happened to my family? They could target you too. Nothing will happen to me, he assured her. I've done everything I can to prepare for any situation, and whatever comes our way, we'll face it together. Her resolve strengthened, and she met his gaze with determination. I'll stay by your side no matter what. We'll handle everything together, she vowed. Junyoung chuckled, amused by the fiery look in her eyes. Calm down first, he teased, gently pushing back a stray strand of her hair. Tomorrow, let's go to that cafe Minjin recommended. She tilted her head in confusion. Why tomorrow? Why not tonight? He smirked, leaning in. Because there's no way we're leaving this bed tonight. Today, I want to spend the entire day with you, right here, he murmured, sealing his words with soft, lingering kisses. The next day, Junyoung and Yoon Seol arrived at the cafe Minjin had suggested. Yoon Seol was brimming with excitement, thrilled that they were finally making up for all the dates they had missed. As they stood in line, she glanced toward the entrance and noticed a familiar figure stepping inside. Gyeong-eun, she called out in surprise. Equally surprised, Gyeong-eun turned toward her. Oh, you two are here together? She asked. Before they could continue, the door opened again, and another person entered. Gyeong-eun, you sit first. I'll order, Minjin said. Minjin? Junyoung blinked, taken aback. Yoon Seol's eyes widened in realization. Wait a minute. Are you T2 dating? She asked, her voice filled with curiosity. The two stood in awkward silence, neither confirming nor denying it. As the four of them sat together, Gyeong-eun attempted to change the subject, but Yoon Seol wasn't about to let it slide. No avoiding the topic. Spill it. Since when? She pressed. Minjin, leaning back lazily with his chin resting on his hand, smirked. Well, it all started because of you guys. We kept meeting to talk about your problems, and then, somehow, we got close, he explained. Wow, this means we can go on double dates. Yoon Seol clapped her hands in excitement. Junyoung, unimpressed, raised an eyebrow. Weren't you saying you wanted to go on dates with just me? He asked. She leaned in and kissed him playfully. That too, she whispered, coaxing him with a sweet smile. A few days later, as Yoon Seol arrived at her campus, she noticed the lingering stares from people around her. It's been 2 weeks, but they're still staring, she muttered. Well, you did hug Mr. Kang openly on campus, So-kyun pointed out lazily, sipping his coffee. And, since Mr. Kang is basically every girl's dream guy, they're probably just jealous, he added with a smirk. He then turned his attention to Gyeong-eun. And you didn't even tell me about your relationship, he complained. You don't need to know everything, Gyeong-eun replied coolly before getting up to grab her order. When she returned, she handed a sandwich to Yoon Seol. Minjin recommended this one. You should try it. Yoon Seol happily took a bite but immediately froze, her expression turning pale. She covered her mouth, pushed the sandwich back to Gyeong-eun, and rushed toward the restroom. Gyeong-eun and So-kyun exchanged glances, both thinking the same thing. Moments later, Yoon Seol returned, wiping her mouth. It was just the cilantro. I ate too much of it, she explained before reaching for her coffee. But before she could take a sip, both Gyeong-eun and So-kyun shouted in unison, Don't drink that! She paused mid-action, confused. What's wrong with coffee? She asked, looking between them. Gyeong-eun hesitated for a moment before finally voicing her suspicion. What if? You're pregnant? Yoon Seol nearly choked. Hey, I told you it was just the cilantro, she blurted out, flustered. So-kyun ran a hand through his hair with a sigh. Yoon Seol, you're married now. You should at least consider the possibility, he reasoned. Yeah, a lot of women don't notice the symptoms at first. You should get checked, Gyeong-eun agreed. Yoon Seol's eyes widened as her face paled. The thought had never even crossed her mind. But now that they mentioned it, it was entirely possible. Before she could say anything, a car pulled up behind them. So-kyun glanced at the window, recognizing the driver instantly. Mr. Kang, he greeted casually. Before Junyoung could respond, Gyeong-eun rushed over, and the two of them shouted in unison. Congratulations on becoming a father, Mr. Kang. Junyoung, caught completely off guard, froze in place. He stared at them in stunned silence, processing what he had just heard. As they arrived home, Yoon Seol stood by the door, still lost in thought. Yoon Seol, do you think what they said is true? Junyoung asked while removing his coat, his eyes fixed on her. I don't know, she replied, still processing everything. I ate a sandwich, and because of the cilantro, I threw up. That's all. He stepped closer, his brows furrowed. But how do you feel otherwise? Have your periods been late? He asked hurriedly. No, I feel fine, she reassured him. Junyoung exhaled, still unconvinced. Do you want to take a shower first, or should I go? She asked, trying to change the subject. You go first. I have something to do, he replied, watching her intently. After she left, he stood there for a moment, deep in thought. Soon, Yoon Seol came back after her shower, but Junyoung was nowhere in sight. Confused, she went looking for him. Are you looking for me? His voice came from behind as he entered the room. Where did you go? She asked curiously. Without answering, he placed a small bag in front of her. I went to get this, he said, revealing a pregnancy test. Just take the test, he urged, his expression serious. A few moments later, Yoon Seol returned, holding the result in her hands. She showed it to him. See? I told you it was just because of the cilantro, she said with a serious face. Junyoung looked at her, then let out a soft chuckle before pulling her into a warm hug. And Junyoung, to be honest, I'm not ready for a child yet. I still want to focus on my studies, Yoon Seol admitted, her voice hesitant. She looked up at him, searching his face. Were you? Looking forward to it? Junyoung cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing against her cheek. Yoon Seol, I want us to be ready first. Maybe not now, he said, his voice deep and sincere. But yes, I am looking forward to it. The next day, as Yoon Seol walked through the campus, she suddenly heard Gyeong-eun calling out to her. Yoon Seol? Before she could react, Gyeong-eun grabbed her hand and pulled her into a quiet corner. What's going on? Is it urgent? Yoon Seol asked, confused by her friend's anxious expression. Yes, it's really urgent, Gyeong-eun whispered, fumbling for words. She hesitated for a moment, then finally leaned in and said in a hushed voice, The truth is, the one who's actually pregnant is me. Yoon Seol's eyes widened in shock. What? She grabbed Gyeong-eun's shoulders, her voice filled with urgency. Are you sure? Did you take a test? Have you told Minjun yet? I've taken the test twice, Gyeong-eun admitted, worry evident in her expression. Still trying to process everything, Yoon Seol bombarded her with more questions. But you guys only started dating a little while ago. How did this happen so quickly? Gyeong-eun sighed. It just happened. We got caught up in the moment, and we weren't careful. She hesitated before continuing. I don't even know how to tell Minjun. Our relationship is still new, and I have no idea how he'll react. Hearing this, Yoon Seol's expression hardened. If he refuses to take responsibility, I'll be there for you. No matter what, you won't be alone in this. Touched by her friend's support, Gyeong-eun smiled gratefully. Thank you, Yoon Seol. That means a lot. That night at the Kang house, as Junyoung worked in his study, he noticed Yoon Seol enter the room, her expression unreadable. She remained silent, but he could sense something was bothering her. Closing his laptop, he leaned back in his chair. What's wrong? He asked. She hesitated before finally speaking. It's about Gyeong-eun. Junyoung listened as she shared everything she had learned, that Gyeong-eun was pregnant and hadn't told Minjun yet. As she spoke, she glanced up at him, only to find that he didn't look surprised. Why aren't you shocked? She asked, narrowing her eyes in suspicion. Sensing her tone, Junyoung smirked slightly. Oh, I'm surprised, he replied casually. But more importantly, how is she doing? He stood up and walked over to her. She's worried it might change their relationship since it's still new, Yoon Seol admitted. Honestly, I was shocked that they, went that far already. Were they already certain about each other's feelings? Meanwhile, we needed so much time for that. Junyoung chuckled. That's just a man's instinct, Yoon Seol, he said, his voice lower. When he's with the woman he loves, he doesn't hesitate. He leaned in slightly, lifting her onto the desk with ease. And you have no idea how many times I've struggled to hold myself back. But before he could go any further, Yoon Seol interrupted him. Did Minjun tell you anything? She asked, her voice laced with curiosity. No, Junyoung admitted, tilting his head slightly. But I've known him since he was 15. He's someone who always thinks ahead. If he's gone this far, that means he's already thought about marrying Gyeong-eun. His tone was serious. Hearing this, Yoon Seol nodded, but hesitated for a moment before adding, There's something else I wanted to ask. She reached out, pressing a finger against his lips before he could lean in closer. About Sujin's situation, you mentioned a lot of legal matters earlier, but I didn't understand everything. Could you teach me? I want to be able to handle things better in the future. For the past 2 weeks, she had been swarmed by reporters at the campus gates, forced to confirm that she was, in fact, married to Kang Junyoung of TJ Corp. The situation was no different for Junyoung. He was constantly dealing with the media and his employees, all pressing him for details. Watching him, Yoon Seol couldn't help but laugh softly. She reached for him, pulling him into a kiss, one that took Junyoung by surprise. But he quickly recovered, deepening the kiss as he wrapped his arms around her. A few days ago, Sujin's father ordered Mr. An to bring the reporter to him. Soon after, two men dragged the reporter into the room. Meanwhile, Minjin informed Junyoung that the reporter had been captured by Mr. No. Frustrated, the reporter scoffed. "Did you bring me here because of the rumors about Sujin? If so, I did nothing wrong. Those rumors exist because they're true. Besides, it wasn't difficult to uncover Sujin's wrongdoings. Plenty of people in her circle dislike her." Hearing his words, Sujin's eyes burned with fury. How dare a mere reporter speak to her that way? She turned to her father, demanding he do something. Mr. No stood up, his voice dangerously calm. "Reporter Kim," he began, "I assume you have a plan if you're speaking so boldly in front of me, because surely you understand that after such arrogance, walking out of here unscathed will be quite difficult." His words carried an unmistakable warning. The reporter fell silent, realizing the weight of the situation. He had already foreseen this outcome the moment he stepped into the room. Mr. No then turned to Sujin. "For now, you need to step away from everything. Stay out of sight and don't go anywhere." Then, shifting his gaze back to Mr. An, he added, "As for Kang Junyoung, it's time to apply some pressure. I'll handle him myself." Somewhere, Kyung-eun sat anxiously, waiting for Minjin. When he arrived, he apologized for being late, but she quickly reassured him. "It's not your fault. I called you out suddenly," she said. As he sat beside her, he suggested finding a cozy indoor place to escape the cold, scrolling through his phone for nearby cafes. But instead of responding, Kyung-eun kept her eyes on him. After a moment, she finally spoke. "Minjin, do you love me? What if we got married?" she asked, her voice steady. Minjin, caught off guard, replied casually, "Why are you suddenly talking about marriage? Anyway, I found a great restaurant nearby. They serve amazing wine." Before he could continue, she snatched his phone and with a serious expression said, "Listen to me, Minjin. From now on, I can't drink for the next 8 months." Minjin stared at her, processing her words. Realization hit him like a wave, and he instinctively took a step back. But he quickly composed himself, leaning closer. "Are you saying I'm going to be—" Before he could finish, Kyung-eun abruptly stood up. "It's okay, Minjin. I don't expect you to take responsibility. I already knew the answer, but I just wanted to let you know. Since you are the biological father. And don't worry, Yoon Seol already agreed to be the godparent," she rambled on, her voice shaky. Minjin blinked in disbelief. "Yoon Seol? What?" He struggled to digest the whirlwind of information. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to remain composed. "Our relationship ends here," she declared, turning to leave. But before she could take another step, Minjin grabbed her wrist, pulling her back. "How can you decide that on your own?" His voice was firm. "I love you, Kyung-eun, and I will marry you. But what about you? If it wasn't for the baby, would you still stay with me forever?" She hesitated, then grabbed his collar. I like you so much, Minjin," she admitted, her eyes brimming with emotion. Without another word, he pulled her into a tight embrace. "I won't let you or our child go. I'll meet your parents soon and convince them," he promised, holding her as if he'd never let her slip away. That night, after finishing his presentation, Junyoung returned home. As soon as he stepped inside, Yoon Seol greeted him warmly. "How did the meeting go?" she asked, her eyes filled with curiosity. He gave her a reassuring smile. "It went well, thanks to Minjin's hard work. The investors seemed interested in TJ Corp, and even Mr. No assured me earlier that we'll secure the deal," he explained. At the mention of Mr. No, Yoon Seol's expression tensed slightly. Sensing her concern, Junyoung leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss on her forehead. "Don't worry," he murmured. "They won't be able to harm our family like before." She sighed in relief. "Thank you for telling me everything clearly this time," she murmured. Then a thought suddenly struck her. Looking up at him, she asked, "By the way, when is your birthday?" Junyoung chuckled at her unexpected question. "Why do you ask?" She pouted slightly. "Because I don't know what to give you. You already have everything." He looked at her with warmth, then grasped both of her hands. "I don't need anything, Yoon Seol. This is enough for me," he said, smiling. In the coming days, news of Junyoung and Yoon Seol's first official appearance after the campus scandal spread like wildfire. After that, they no longer felt the need to hide their relationship. Whether it was an ice cream date or matching outfits, they looked every bit like a couple in love, drawing attention wherever they went. So-kyun scrolled through an article featuring them, detailing their affectionate public displays. He sighed, then looked up from his phone. Right in front of him, the very same couple sat together, wearing matching glasses, as if the article had come to life. Junyoung was explaining something, while Yoon Seol, like a diligent student, took notes attentively. So-kyun leaned toward Kyung-eun and whispered, I know the heater is broken here, but it's really not that cold, right? Don't be jealous, Seokhyun, Gyeongun replied, smirking. Seokhyun pouted dramatically. Now that you both have your men, you don't understand the struggles of a single person like me. Aren't you late for work? Yoon Seol asked Junyoung. No, there's no meeting scheduled today, so I'm free, he replied casually. But Junyoung, look over there, she pointed to the other students who were openly staring at them, their two friends being the only ones unfazed. Just ignore them, Junyoung said, tightening his embrace around her. Yoon Seol suddenly recalled an article that claimed Junyoung had fallen for her the first time he saw her at her parents' funeral. Curious, she turned to him. Is that true? Did you really fall for me back then? Junyoung smirked. How could I fall in love with a girl who was sobbing? He teased. Maybe you just felt pity for me, she countered, narrowing her eyes. Meanwhile, Seokhyun, who had been tolerating their endless flirting, finally had enough. He stood up abruptly. Enough! I don't want to witness any more of your flirting in public. And besides, if people keep seeing a teacher and student like this, it'll cause more rumors on campus, he complained. Junyoung chuckled, unaffected. That won't be an issue anymore. Now that I'm taking full charge of TJ Corp, I won't be teaching anymore. I'm not her professor now, he stated matter-of-factly. Seokhyun sighed. Even if he was no longer a professor, did that mean they could act like this in public? As Junyoung prepared to leave, he bid Yoon Seol farewell with a quick kiss. Before stepping away, he turned to the others. Have any of you seen Sujin lately? Yoon Seol shook her head. I haven't seen her for a while now. Seokhyun and Gyeongyun exchanged glances and confirmed the same. Junyoung's expression turned thoughtful. Be careful and watch over Yoon Seol, he advised. Both of them reassured him. Don't worry, we'll take care of her, Gyeongun said confidently. With exams coming to an end, Seokhyun invited them to a party. At first, both Yoon Seol and Gyeongun declined, wanting to spend time with their partners. However, Seokhyun clarified that this was not one of his usual wild parties. It was a private celebration just for them, to mark the end of their exams. He even encouraged them to bring their partners along. Seeing his enthusiasm, they finally agreed. As they were leaving, Yoon Seol turned to Gyeongun. So, how did your talk with Minjin go? How did he react? Gyeongun didn't say anything, but the bright smile on her face was enough of an answer. Yoon Seol smiled knowingly. I see, she said, linking arms with her friend as they walked away. The next day, everyone gathered at Seokhyun's party. Seokhyun finally officially congratulated Junyoung on his wedding, and asked them to consider this party as both an apology and a wedding gift. Later, he handed Yoon Seol a glass of juice, having assumed she was pregnant, only for Junyoung to clarify that his wife was not expecting. From the side, Gyeongun raised her hand and revealed that she was actually the one pregnant. Seokhyun stared in disbelief before complaining, "Why am I always the last one to know everything?" Directing his frustration at both Yoon Seol and Gyeongun. Just then, Minjin, who had been silent, made an announcement. Apart from the pregnancy news, we have something else to share. We're getting married. While Seokhyun stood there, still bewildered by all the shocking revelations, Junyoung and Yoon Seol offered their heartfelt congratulations. At the office, Junyoung handed over some documents to Secretary Yoon, instructing her to check their legalities. Minjin, standing nearby, observed her with a sharp gaze. I heard Mr. No wants to meet you, Minjin said, his tone serious. Do you think it's about the reporter? Or Sujin? It could be anything, Junyoung replied, his expression unreadable, but deep down he couldn't ignore the possibility that it might also be related to Yoon Seol. Remembering Minjin's upcoming wedding, he congratulated him once again. Were you surprised? Minjin asked, amused. Not really, Junyoung replied with a smirk. His mind drifted back to the first time he met Minjin in high school. They had crossed paths at a bookstore where Minjin had been reading a cookbook instead of a textbook. Curiosity got the better of Junyoung, and he asked, Do your parents own a restaurant? Minjin had chuckled before explaining, No, they have a different business. I'll support them, but in 15 to 20 years, I plan to open my own restaurant. Junyoung had been shocked by his long-term vision. I didn't know you were this ambitious. You always seemed like the laid-back guy who didn't mind being second in class, Junyoung admitted. With a confident smile, Minjin had responded, That's because coming first in class was never my goal. I always know what I want, and when I find something I truly like, I work hard to get it. And that was exactly how he felt when he first met Gyeongun at Junyoung's wedding. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Yoon Seol and Gyeongun arrived at a wedding dress shop. I've never been the type to settle down, Gyeongun admitted, fidgeting with a fabric swatch. But when Minjin proposed, I couldn't refuse. And it wasn't just because of the baby. It was something I wanted deep down. Yoon Seol squeezed her hand reassuringly. Maybe you fell in love before you even realized it. Gyeongun smirked. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I mean, you couldn't exactly turn down Mr. Kang either, could you? But apart from her teasing, Kyung-un expressed her happiness. Now that they were officially a couple, she felt even more grateful to have found the right man. And thanks to Yoon Seol, she was now finding the perfect dress as well. How do you know when it's the right dress? Kyung-un asked, turning to her. You never really know until you try it on, Yoon Seol giggled. But as she looked at Kyung-un in the gown, something clicked. This one, she murmured. And the moment Kyung-un saw herself in the mirror, she knew it too. That evening, as Yoon Seol helped Mrs. Kang prepare dinner, Junyoung walked into the house. Noticing her right away, he casually asked, So how was shopping with Kyung-un? Before he could finish his question, Yoon Seol rushed toward him and planted a kiss on his lips, catching him completely off guard. Junyoung stiffened, and his ears burned as he became acutely aware that his mother was standing right behind them. What were you saying? She asked, oblivious to his flustered state. Clearing his throat, he struggled to regain composure. I was asking about shopping. Oh, we may check out a few more stores tomorrow, she answered breezily, still lost in her own excitement. Junyoung was still visibly blushing. Seeing his reaction, she called out, Junyoung? From behind them, Mrs. Kang stifled a laugh, quickly raising her phone. She snapped a picture, capturing the moment forever. But then, realization struck. Yoon Seol turned, her face going pale. Oh no, Mom was here? She whispered in horror. Mrs. Kang smiled mischievously. Don't mind me, she said, clearly enjoying herself. At dinner, Mrs. Kang suggested that Junyoung take some time off from work and go on a trip with Yoon Seol. Junyoung turned to her, a slight smile on his lips. So, what do you think? Minjin recommended a great resort, and we can also go skiing there, he said. Before Yoon Seol could reply, an excited voice cut in. Can I come too? Jun Seo asked eagerly. Of course, Yoon Seol answered without hesitation. Meanwhile, Junyoung's smile faltered as he realized his plans for a romantic getaway had just been derailed. That night, Seok-hyun called Yoon Seol, asking if she wanted to join an internship at a company his friend had suggested for the upcoming vacation. But this time, she was determined. No, I'm going skiing. I really want to enjoy this vacation, she said excitedly. Hearing this, Seok-hyun perked up. Skiing? That sounds fun. Can I join too? Immediately, she shut down the idea. No way. Junyoung would never agree to that. The next day, everyone gathered for the skiing trip. Kyung-un and Minjun were also there, making it a trip with both friends and family. Just as they were about to set off, a familiar voice rang out. Hello, everyone. Heads turned. It was Seok-hyun, standing there with a smug grin. Instead of interning this time, he had somehow managed to join the trip. He announced that he too wanted to enjoy the vacation with them, so he decided to start his internship from next week. Junyoung turned to Yoon Seol, complaining that he had thought the trip was only for the two of them. Yoon Seol apologized. She too had wanted that, but she couldn't say no to Jin Seo, and this place was suggested by Minjun, so how could she say no to Kyung-un and Minjun as well? And besides, wasn't it fun with them all? The snowy mountain resort bustled with energy and a fun-filled winter outing. Junyoung, in dark winter gear, sunglasses, and a scarf that concealed much of his face, moved coolly. While Yoon Seol stood nearby with Kyung-un, watching her handsome husband skiing, Kyung-un asked Yoon Seol if she wasn't going skiing. But Yoon Seol was worried about her since she was pregnant, so she decided to stay behind with her. On the other side, Jun Seo was learning to ski from Minjun and fell. Yoon Seol rushed towards him, teasing him that he lost focus because of the greeting from a girl. Minjun laughed, pointing toward the direction where Seok-hyun was surrounded by beauties. The one who was losing focus was surely that man, who always found a chance to talk to girls wherever he went. Both Yoon Seol and Kyung-un sighed, leaving Seok-hyun be. Meanwhile, little Jun Seo watched Seok-hyun curiously, wondering if he should ask Seok-hyun for advice. As he was watching, someone rushed behind him as if saying, "Don't you dare." It was his brother Junyoung, who had seen through his thoughts and advised him to focus on studying. Jun Seo, scared, firmly denied the allegation, but Junyoung again reminded him not to ask Seok-hyun for any advice, as he was not a good role model to follow. As he left, Jun Seo's face puffed, thinking the one giving advice was the one who had never had any girlfriend before. Seeing everyone skiing, temptation came to Kyung-un, as she expressed her desire to go skiing, but Yoon Seol declined her request, as it was really risky for a pregnant woman. Minjun also denied the idea, as she was only in her first trimester. So she decided to sit with hot chocolate, chatting with Yoon Seol. As they were arguing, Yoon Seol felt something odd. "What's wrong, Yoon Seol?" Kyung-un asked. Yoon Seol looked behind the bushes. It was like someone was watching them. But before they could pry further, Seok-hyun appeared, huffing as he finally escaped Mr. Kang, who had been keeping an eye on him. Kyung-un suggested maybe what Yoon Seol felt was because of this. Seok-hyun sat beside Yoon Seol, as usual flirting, asking if she finally felt his love. Yoon Seol scolded him, telling him to flirt with the girls he was with earlier. As they were talking, again they felt as if someone was peeking at them. Yoon Seol expressed that it wasn't her imagination, and Sokyun also agreed, as he too felt something. They looked behind the bushes, where a man seemed to be watching in their direction, but on a closer look, it was none other than Kang Junyoung. He was very possessive of his wife, scolding Sokyun to stop flirting and also to stay away from Junseo. Sokyun, who had no idea why he mentioned Junseo, hid behind Yoon Seol, treating her as his shield. Junyoung, ignoring him, took out sunglasses from his head, borrowing them from Sokyun, and put them on Yoon Seol, startling her as he asked her to hold on to him tightly. In the next second, the man picked up his wife in his embrace. Yoon Seol was scared, as he was still on skis, but Junyoung assured her that if he hadn't done it, then they might not get any alone time. Yoon Seol looked at her husband, whose face was fully covered, and for some reason, she wanted to see his expression. She reached out to him with her hand, sliding his sunglasses up, and the beautiful eyes of Mr. Kang were visible, eyes that clearly showed affection for his wife. Yoon Seol agreed with him. And anyway, now there was Sokyun and Minjun with Gyeong-eun, but they still needed to get her ski equipment. His wife's wish was his command, and with that, Junyoung made his way toward the basement, startling everyone around them, especially their friends who sat there watching them and understanding their wish to be alone. Meanwhile, little Junseo sighed in relief, as he was finally able to ask Sokyun for advice, since his brother was no longer there. At the Kang house, both Junyoung and Yoon Seol exercised. Junyoung asked if she wanted to intern at his company again, but Yoon Seol refused the idea. Since their secret marriage was revealed now, it would make things awkward. Besides, Junyoung was going on a business trip for 3 days, so how could she go alone to the office? As her eyes drifted to the dumbbells her husband was exercising with, a smile formed on her face. It was a gift she had given him, and he was using it. She inquired if he liked the gift, and if they were good. Junyoung simply replied that they were just like casual dumbbells. She complained about how heartless he sounded, asking if the dumbbells didn't remind him of her. Junyoung turned back slightly, and with a smile, replied that of course they reminded him of her, because who else would give their husband pink dumbbells like these? He kneeled in front of her, offering his hand to help her up, and stated that it was not the gift that mattered, but the person who gave it. With a frown, she placed her hand into his and asked if now she was higher on his list of favorites than exercise. Junyoung laughed slightly, informing her that from the start, nobody was comparing her to exercise. Upon remembering that she still didn't know his birthday, she inquired again. But Junyoung didn't reveal it, saying he didn't want any gift. Yoon Seol frowned, wondering how she could get Junyoung to tell her his birth date. Junyoung noticed her anxiety, and with a smile, he suggested a challenge. If she could find out about his birthday before he came back from his business trip, she could ask anything from him, and he'd give it to her, even eat everything she cooked, as if it were a punishment for him. With slow steps, he moved closer, making her startle, and reminded her that she was not allowed to ask any family member. And if she wasn't able to find out by the time he returned, he leaned closer to her ear, whispering her punishment, which made her face flush red. The next day, Junyoung prepared to leave for his trip. Yoon Seol made him promise not to disappear and to contact her. He promised, but in return, he also asked her to promise not to cheat by asking his family about his birthday. She lazily nodded. As the car left, she happily waved at him. And as the car disappeared, it was then her challenge began. She soon reached her room and started to find any document with the information. Not able to find it, she reached the study room. Here, too, she checked everywhere but found no clue. She wondered if her husband had hidden it beforehand. Mrs. Kang noticed her and asked if she needed anything. For Yoon Seol, it seemed like cheating to ask a family member, but still, it would be a worse choice to ask his mom about it, since she would be confused why Yoon Seol didn't know her husband's birthday. So, she diverted the topic, offering to help with cooking. Junyoung called, asking if she was able to find out. With a frown, she replied not yet. He informed her that he'd be back by tomorrow, as his work finished earlier than expected. As the call ended, worry consumed her. Now she didn't have much time, and she couldn't sleep like this. She searched about her husband on the internet but found nothing. The man was good at hiding things. She even asked Minjun, but no luck there as well. For a moment, she thought about taking a wild guess, but imagining the punishment he had whispered in her ear earlier made her think again for a different solution. As she wandered in the house, she found Junseo quietly eating his dinner. Upon inquiring, Junseo revealed that his brother's birthday had already passed. It was October 18th. Happiness overwhelmed her as she finally found out his birth date. She happily hugged Junseo, thanking him and asking him not to tell anyone about it. She resolutely told herself. Earlier he was making her cooking a punishment. Now just wait and see how she would punish him for real. But her eyes widened as a memory surfaced, last October 18th. If she was correct, it was the day when she left home and they had a serious fight. And in the end, he had left alone. The memory pained her heart. How could she have given him pain on that very day? She hurriedly made a call, asking her husband if he had arrived in the city. He had arrived but needed to go straight to the office as he had a meeting, so he cut the call, promising to meet her at home. She stood there blank, something stuck in her heart, making it heavy. The snow was covering the city heavily, and Junyoung, in the midst of it, arrived at his company. As he was getting out of the car, a person informed him that his wife was waiting for him. He looked ahead, and indeed, it was Choi Yoon Seol standing there in a white dress, covering herself in a thick black coat over her shoulders, her long hair cascading down. Junyoung worriedly asked why she was here at this hour. Didn't he say he'd be home soon, so she should wait for him there? She didn't answer any of it. Instead, she asked if October 18th was his birthday. He froze at the sudden question, staring at her. She continued, because she had given him a bad memory on his special day. Was that why he wasn't telling her his birthday? The man brought his wife into his embrace, assuring her that it had nothing to do with that. It was all a misunderstanding, and if anyone was at fault, then it was Sujin. Yoon Seol raised her head and asked seriously what he wanted as a gift. Junyoung thought for a second. He was hungry and didn't want to go to a restaurant, so he asked for her homemade ramen, since he hadn't tried it yet. Yoon Seol frowned at his request. Wasn't he making fun of her cooking? Junyoung smiled, leading her out. She herself had earlier mentioned once that she was good at making instant ramen and black bean noodles, so he just wanted to try that. As she walked with her husband hand in hand, she wondered, maybe there would be a lot of hardship ahead of them in the future, but would he stay by her side through it all?